Miss Murphy, can you hear us?
Yes, but there's an echo.
Testing, testing. Can you hear us on the Zoom side?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Praise God. Let's go.
Testing. 1, 2, 3, testing.
Test.
After all of that, thank you for your patience and your
Testing. Testing. Excellent.
goodness gracious. And you can all say you were here when. All right. Commissioners, staff, are we ready to roll? All right. Somewhere.
Recording in progress.
Live streaming on Facebook. We are ready to roll.
I'd like to call this meeting to order at 6:38 p.m. on October 2nd, 2025. Director Todd, can you help us with a roll call, please?
Certainly, Madam Chair. Commissioner Bennett is excused. Commissioner Daniels.
Present.
Commissioner Esparza.
Present.
Commissioner Harrison.
Present.
Commissioner Lewis.
Present.
Commissioner Russell.
Here.
Commissioner Smith is excused. And Commissioner Udabi.
Present.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, you have a quorum present.
Excellent. Thank you, Director Todd. Are there any amendments to the agenda today?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, there are none.
Excellent to hear. I would like to bring up the meeting minutes of June 6, 2024.
And Madam Chair, Commissioners, we do apologize as we discovered that these had not been presented to you, so we apologize for the tardiness.
Excellent. Thank you. Does anyone want to make a motion to accept these meeting minutes?
So move, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. Does anyone want a second?
Second.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. Now I would like to present the meeting minutes for April 3rd, 2025. Do I have anyone to...
Complete the vote.
Yes. All those in support of the meeting minutes for June 6, 2024, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The meeting minutes are approved. Now I'd like to ask for approval of meeting minutes for April 3rd, 2025. Does anyone have a motion to approve these minutes?
So move, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. Do we have a...
Support it.
Excellent. Thank you, Commissioner. All those in favor of supporting the April 3rd, 2025 minutes, please support with the sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed with nay. Excellent. Those meeting minutes are approved. I would like to now move to the 5:15 p.m. public hearing to consider the request of Bradley DeVries on behalf of Daniel A. Washington and Northwestern Goldberg Cares in conjunction with the Detroit City Planning Commission to rezone the properties located at 6106 15th Street, 6116 15th Street, 6122 15th Street, 6128 15th Street, 6134 15th Street, 6140 15th Street, and 6146 15th Street were an R2 two-family residential zoning classification is shown to an R3 low-density residential zoning classification. Ms. Perales Lara will be on the City Planning Commission to take care of us. Please take it away.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I may share my screen. Thank you. And I am joined by our petitioners, if they could introduce themselves as well.
Good evening, Commissioners. Daniel A. Washington, Founder and Executive Director of Northwest Gilbert Cares.
Good evening. My name is Jordan Yagella. I'm the Director of Programming at Northwest Goldberg Cares.
Thank you. So I'm Dolores Perales-Lara, and I will be presenting the Holland Mays proposed rezoning. Again, this is the request of Bradley DeVries on behalf of Daniel A. Washington and Northwest Goldberg Cares in conjunction with the City Planning Commission. This is to rezone the properties listed below from an R2 to an R3 zoning classification. Just as a brief background, Northwest Goldberg Cares has served the Northwest Goldberg neighborhood since 2017 through place-based education and community revitalization. Specifically, its Holland Mays program began during the COVID-19 pandemic and has grown to be a multi-day camp-style program serving children usually between the ages of 4 and 8 years old. Now the organization is proposing a 1,600 square foot schoolhouse-style nonprofit center located at 6134, 6140, and 6146 15th Street to expand their current programming. The building will feature a classroom, restrooms, a kitchenette, staff offices, and a youth soft zone, as well as a small little conference space designated with universal accessibility standards. The proposed site will be built where the current outdoor programming occurs at this time. Under the current R2 zoning, the minimum lot size for a neighborhood center is 10,000 square feet, requiring a variance. However, if rezoned to R3, the requirement does drop to 7,000 square feet, meeting the current square footage requirements where the lot will meet that, where it is currently under 10,000 square feet. Hence, this is why the rezoning was prompted by Northwest Goldberg Cares. The City Planning Commission is serving as a co-petitioner for the rezoning of 4 parcels. One of the 4 is not owned by the primary petitioner. The rezoning request encompasses the entire block face to ensure consistency as well as to avoid spot zoning. As you can see on the map, the parcels outlined in orange are all owned by the primary petitioner, and the parcel outlined in blue is not. Just to kind of ground us, we are located in District 5 in the Northwest Goldberg neighborhood. This is the location of the proposed rezoning area from an aerial perspective. As you can see, outlined in red is the entire rezoning area, where the blue outline is where the potential schoolhouse will be developed. Regarding surrounding land use, to the north is R2 developed as single-family homes. To the east is R3 developed as single-family homes and residential vacant land. To the south is R2 residential vacant land and a church, which is across Marquette Street. And to the west is R2 developed as single-family homes and residential vacant land, right across 15th Street. With the future land use, the proposed development is located in the Rosa Parks neighborhood and is designated as low to medium density residential. PNDD did find that the proposed rezoning is consistent with the area's future land use designation. Regarding engagement, Northwest Goldberg Cares has conducted outreach with residents along 15th Street, as well as Mezuzah Detroit, which is a nonprofit located in Northwest Goldberg. The petitioner also had direct engagement with 15th Street residents to gauge just general support, interest, and then concerns through door knocking and just community-based feedback. Community expressed support, noting that the program already does occur on that site and that permanent structure would appropriately house the outdoor-based program as it currently does stand. The general response for the development was supportive, with an emphasis on creating a permanent community hub for this program. At this time, CPC staff have received 2 letters of support from 15th Street residents, and we have not received any letters of concern at this time. And with that, I will pass it to our petitioner, who will continue with the presentation.
All right, thank you, Dolores. Appreciate it. Again, Daniel Washington, founder and executive director of Northwest Gilbert Cares. Super excited to be here tonight, as well as a lifelong resident of Northwest Gilbert community. Northwest Gilbert Cares is a community development organization that I founded in 2017 in my neighborhood home, childhood neighborhood. The organization aims to improve upon the lives of residents in the predominantly African American community by incubating neighborhood businesses, building a strong community, and ensuring a family-friendly neighborhood. We built 7 public spaces since 2019. One of those spaces include the Holland Mays Literacy Park, which is the site that we're proposing to transform. And we serve on average about 2,000 residents directly right there in the neighborhood. Since 2019, we've prioritized the creation of public spaces as a means to provide programs and amenities, specifically for existing residents, while also attracting newcomers and home buyers. Those are some photos of some of our fun programs and events that we host out of our public spaces. How we got here is back in 2021, we launched a Reading in the Holland Mays program. It was a flagship program in the park that was really aimed to improve literacy rates. I'm sure I don't have to share with anybody here about the literacy rates in Detroit as a whole. 4 years later, we've evolved and we're taking the next big step to plan building a schoolhouse. Why a schoolhouse? For 4 reasons. Specifically, 1, it's a hub for community connection. We understand that the hub will serve as an inclusive space where people of all ages can gather and learn, and also build upon supportive networks and service providers across our great city. It'll also help with closing the gap in education. Our intention is to build really robust programmatic offerings, especially geared to our elderly residents as well as working parents. It also gives us an opportunity to discuss to have all-season programming. Right now, a lot of our programs are offered throughout the spring and the summer specifically, and this will give us an opportunity to really continue that programming through the fall and winter months. And then, last but not least, it allows us to have sustainable growth. As you can imagine, as a CDO in an area, it's really important to us and imperative to our funders to really be able to continue to do the work that we do without always having to go to philanthropy and asking and begging. So this gives us an opportunity to really diversify the potential of our income by looking at some of the pressing needs in our area. As you think about the future of health and this development, one of the things that we're considering is maybe during the nighttime being able to have a provider come in, a small business, to be able to have some overnight care for child care for those in the area that might need it, while also looking at other opportunities to generate revenue out of the actual space during our off hours. Cool, but what does it look like? These are 2 elevation views of the facility as proposed. We really wanted to be intentional in keeping it coming to not be taller or to preside over any of the existing structures around it, so it will be well under or below the adjacent homes, as well as it'll be more spread out, so it'll kind of give more of a ranch vibe than a mammoth of a structure. We thought that was really important. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for giving us your presentation. I'd like to turn it over to other commissioners if you have any questions or comments about the proposal. All right, Commissioner Lewis.
Did you, Northwest Goldberg owns the land?
Yes, Northwest Gilbert Cares owns the land, yes.
You have the financing readily available for this development?
So we currently aren't fully funded. As you can imagine, as a CDO, it's important to kind of do this step to know the feasibility of the project. We currently have fundraised about $150,000 with additional support on the way upon the approval of this rezoning.
Have you partnered with a developer to understand the extent to which you would need to move in order to construct this building?
I want to turn it over to my colleague, Jordan, who can speak a little bit about that as she is a general contractor.
Yeah, thank you. So that is one of the benefits of this project. I have a builder's license. I've had it since 2022. So we are able to keep the cost of actual construction a little bit lower for us, and the fact that we can manage the construction in-house. I have a really lovely mentor who has worked in the city of Detroit for just under 30 years, who is also going to be helping us. He's been in commercial construction for, like I said, almost 30 years now, and he is looking forward to assisting with the project as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that response. I guess what I want to know is there a developer involved in this project? Is
No.
there an experienced developer involved in this project?
When you say experienced developer, I would say we are an experienced developer. We do full gut rehabs in our home. I mean, in our neighborhood. Sorry, that's part of our work. So we have ample experience in development. So we are the developers, the experienced developers, are part of this project.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Lewis. Does anyone else have any comments or questions? All right, over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Morales, Laura, and I'm sorry, you probably mentioned this, but I just want to be clear. It's zoned R2 now, and the rezoning is for R3. Is that correct?
Through the chair to Commissioner Russell, yes, that is correct.
Okay, and then so why the move to R3? Because schools are allowed in R2.
So through the chair to Commissioner Russell, that is an excellent question. So currently within the R2 district, a neighborhood center nonprofit is allowed as a conditional use. However, due to the lot size, it does not meet the dimensional requirements where it would need to be at minimum 10,000 square feet for that lot, and the current lot is under that, or the current 3 lots are under that. However, in an R3 zoning classification, the minimum would be 7,000 square feet, which the 3 lots would meet that requirement.
So then this project, if it goes forward, would be by right.
That is correct.
Okay, and then there was in the handout, John, there was, and it probably says it, but I just couldn't read it, on A 0.01, I'm taking the orange is the site, and this is just for my curiosity because the zoning is what we're talking about, but there were some blue on and I was just curious what those were.
Through the chair to Commissioner Russell, are you referring, to the architect packet. One second, I can pull that up, and then our petitioner would be able to answer a little bit more of that.
So the blue was, sorry about that, Commissioner. So the blue was showing an existing structure to the left. That's the home that is not owned by the organization. And then to the right, sorry, we're just trying to get the view on our side so we can.
Oh, so that's just showing the house.
Yes, it's just showing the house.
The house and the little square up in the middle.
Yep, and that is across the alley from us.
Oh,
that's already zoned, I believe, R3, correct? Mm-hmm. Yep, so that was one that's already zoned R3 at the top of the page.
Okay, thank you. And then Ms. Perales, Laura, when petitioners like this come for a nonprofit benefit to the neighborhood, do we put them in touch with agencies of the city that can help in either funding or helping them get off the ground?
Through the chair to Commissioner Russell, we can definitely connect them to different entities that would be able to assist and support outside of our department.
And then one last question. The R3 is still low density housing?
Correct. So with the R3, essentially R2 and R3 zoning classifications are very similar in their uses. When it comes to residential structures, they are essentially identical outside of R3, allowing for slightly more intense uses such as multifamily dwellings above 8 units or townhouses, for example.
And planners came back with that this is consistent with the master plan.
Correct. PNDD found that this was consistent with the master plan.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Russell. Does anyone else have any comments or questions? Absolutely, Commissioner Daniels.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sounds like a great project. What's the total cost? Unless I didn't see it, what's the total cost to put this project together?
That's a great question, Commissioner. It's about total $600,000.
600,000.
Sir.
And what's the timeline once you get started? Once you break ground?
The goal is to break ground in spring of 2026 and construction timeline. Jordan?
Yes, we are hoping that it would be about a 6 to 7 month timeline.
6 to 7 months. And most of your contractors are local,
Yes.
Detroit-based, or?
Yes. Yep, we prioritize working with Detroit-based contractors as well as Black and brown-owned businesses.
Okay. Madam Chair, are they looking to approve this today? Mr. Ellis, Laura?
Through the chair to Commissioner Daniels, we did not have a recommendation at this time originally, but so long as Director Todd feels comfortable with moving forward, we are prepared with a recommendation. Yes, I have a verbal recommendation, just not a written one.
Okay, so,
And then we would also have to waive the requirement for same-day action as well.
I have to make a motion to waive the same-day requirement. I move that we waive the same-day requirement and make an approval of this recommendation.
Public hearing first.
Public.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I love your enthusiasm, Commissioner Daniels. I would like to first open it up to any public comment about this item. I don't see any slips that are about this item. Is there anyone in the audience or anyone on Zoom who is interested in speaking on this item?
Madam Chair, we have, it looks like 3 people to speak through Zoom. The first is Rochella Stewart.
Excellent. Do you mind, Mr. Jeffries, to bring them forward, and we'll get the timer up. For this public comment, we'll be limiting to 2 minutes per person.
I'll make me a co-host.
And in the meantime, I think I still don't see anyone in the room. I have one person in the room. Have you filled out a slip by any chance? Oh, okay. Just speaking on this particular item. Is there anyone in the room who wants to speak on that? Okay. Ms. DeBrule will get you a slip, and then we can.
Madam Chair, I'm gonna move forward with the online when you're ready as well.
Okay, excellent. We'll start with the online one, and we'll get you a slip, and we'll do the in-person after. Thank you so much. Ms. DeBrule, do you mind to put the first speaker up, please?
Yes, Madam Chair. Our first speaker is Rochella Stewart, District 5, and they should be able to speak now.
Ms. Stewart, I believe you'll be able to speak.
Okay, good evening, everybody. This development going through, I just want to know what is going to be the cost of the units. Are they going to be more than 2-bedroom units? Are they going to be affordable housing? Because as you know, the people in that area a lot of them is at the 33% property level. You know, what is the AMI is going to be set for these properties? They should have quite a few at 50% of the AMI and below. Some of these should have some kind of universal design. We get some information on that. And this is a part of the proposal, isn't it?
Ms. Stewart, this is about a schoolhouse, so there aren't any bedroom units. This is not a residential proposal.
Okay, well, let me stay on for the next one for the proposal then.
All right,
and
thank
I'll
you.
hear my time, okay?
Okay, thank you so much. Ms. DeBrule, do we have the next speaker?
Yes, Madam Chair. The next speaker on this public hearing is Victoria Washington. They should be able to unmute now.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Victoria Washington, and I am a lifelong resident of Northwest Goldberg. I am in full support of this. I want to speak from a parent's perspective. This same property, while it's now currently being considered to be a schoolhouse, it historically, as was shared, has housed or hosted a literacy program. And my daughter has been a full recipient of the benefits of that literacy program. So I know that families that I've encountered and I've recommended for the program have thoroughly enjoyed it, and it has been really an incredible enhancement to my daughter's education. And so I'm excited about this project. I think it's been very well thought out. It has been very well presented, and the benefits of the project, I feel confident that will just enhance and add to the community. I also had the pleasure of attending a community meeting that was held just last night, specifically for residents of Northwest Goldberg, where there was an opportunity for us to speak on what our concerns were. The founder of this organization took their time with presenting the material to the neighbors and made sure that he took time to answer everyone's questions. So while we're in front of you today, we, the people in the neighborhood, have already had the opportunity to interface with the founder of this organization. So I just want to put that out there, that they have been intentional about getting community buy-in and hearing any concerns, addressing those concerns, and everyone seemed to be was in support of it, and I am as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Washington. Ms. DeBrule, is there still just one more hand?
Yes, Madam Chair. Our final caller on this hearing is Nidra, and they should be able to unmute now.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nidra Hall, and I am a resident of the Northwest Goldberg area. I just wanted to express my full support in this project. Being a very new resident, I've been honored to be able to be surrounded by so many amenities, including the pocket parks that Northwest Goldberg has built. And so I just wanted to express how, just as a new resident, having accessibility and having even my own family be able to partake in the many different amenities in the area has been very beneficial. I love where I live, and I love to see where the development is going.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Nidra. I will pause on the online comments, and I will call to speak in person Bill Cheek and Sarash Irani. Staff, is there a good microphone? Is there an available microphone? I think I can't tell.
Madam Chair, Bill Cheek is actually going to speak on the next hearing.
Yes. All right. Okay. Whenever you're ready.
Hello, members of the commission. My name is Sarash Irani. I am a Detroiter resident of District 5, and I don't live in Northwest Goldberg, but I live right across the boulevard from Northwest Goldberg. I've known Daniel for a while. I've known all the work he's done in that community, how much he cares about that community. And I know that he's made a really positive impact in the Northwest Goldberg neighborhood and in Detroit as a whole. And so I am in full support of his proposal, and I think that it would bring another much needed amenity to the neighborhood. And so I would urge the commission to move forward with this rezoning process for Northwest Goldberg Cares. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Irani. I appreciate it. And with that, I will close public comment for this item. Now I'd like to direct any comments, questions, or potential motions back to the commission.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Yes.
Thank you. I have a question for both staff and the petitioner, and looking at what's been provided in the request. And I share with what a lot of folks have already said. I think I appreciate what you're doing in the community and how this site is being used. The question that I have pertains to the actual site plan, though, and how the site will be configured and how folks will be accessing the site, because we see a diagram for the building in the layout of the building, but we don't see a site plan. So can you just talk through a little bit, how do you anticipate sort of the site plan being designed so that people will be accessing the site?
Thank you for that question, Commissioner. So the intention of the building is to be centered on the 3 lots with a green space to really honor the work and the investment that we initially made of it being a public space in the front of it. So it'll still have the Holland Mays Literacy Park design in the front of the site plan. And then there will be the facility actually centered of the 3 lots. Our intention is to design it with universal design, knowing that there are those in our neighborhood and visitors who will be needing ADA compliant design in that way. The goal is to have the space free of any barriers in any way, and we really want to encourage really there to be walking happening and just drop off. We don't want to see excessive parking. Our intention is to actually redirect the parking on some of our more, if you want to use them, car-friendly streets. We have Marquette as well as Ferry Park that kind of bookends the block. And our intention is to ensure that there is not a lot of traffic and congestion. So our goal, like a lot of homeschooling facilities, is to have some form of a monitor or street monitor that kind of helps with traffic to alleviate any traffic congestion. I want to kind of turn it over to Jordan to address it as well.
Thank you, Danielle. And thank you, Commissioner. Again, a great question. Another thing, too, that I think is really important to note is that while we, of course, accept people from all over the city of Detroit in our programs, the intention is really to be working for the residents that are in the neighborhood and making it a really walkable and accessible space so that all of the, the toddlers and the older kids and even some of the senior citizens that are in our neighborhood don't have to leave the neighborhood to have extremely high quality, accessible, and most importantly, free programming. I don't recall if that was noted at all in the initial presentation, what Daniel had initially said, but all of the program that we offer through our organization is 100% free. Most recently, the Learning in the Holland Maze program this summer also, again, was 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday. It offered a breakfast snack, a hot lunch, and an afternoon snack as well. And again, all of those things are at no cost to families. So it's very important to us to ensure that the residents are, aware of the programs and that they are the ones that primarily are taking place. I don't know if this is exactly what you were speaking to when you asked about the accessibility of the building, but we plan to have a normal man doors that open, but then also have a garage door as well that will open up so that during the more temperate months we have the ability to have indoor-outdoor learning as well.
Appreciate that. And just for clarification, talking about accessibility, I'm really talking about the site, like parking lot. Ingress, egress, where those things will be placed, how folks will be accessing the site along the street, I anticipate, which is just going to this. I think that's just, whether it's off of 15th or Marquette. So those are the two. I also see, I think there's an alleyway along Hughes.
Yeah, Hughes Terrace, that's a cul-de-sac. So it'll be 15th Street. The 15th Street will be the main entrance.
Okay.
And that will be where the building faces, is 15th Street.
Okay. Appreciate it. And the, I think that given that we don't have a site plan, those would be some of the things that I want to I want to ensure are looked at as this. It's not a huge intensification in terms of zoning. It's just going up from R2 to R3. So it's not a huge intensification of zoning, but it is a different type of sort of the use of a schoolhouse is kind of, or a community space, or an educational space rather, is somewhat unique, especially given that it was formerly there were houses on the site. So just recognizing that there might be some changes there, I think is something that I want to explore. But the question I have for staff is, in terms of those being priorities, and it sounds like colleagues here on commission, there's the possibility of advancing this tonight. Are those things that could be looked at as this progresses forward, like looking at, working on the site plan to make certain that it just, has those elements of best practice from some of the things that we've seen?
Through the chair to Commissioner Harrison, that's something that we can definitely work with our petitioner to make sure before it goes to PET if they have any type of site plan that could be presented and included to the council. I will say that the petitioner also, if the rezoning it does go through, they would be applying for a parking variance as well, where currently there would need to be 16 spaces due to the current dimensions of the lot. However, they are aware that they will need a parking variance and will need to go through that process as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Harrison. Quickly, I think Commissioner Esparza, did you have a comment first? And then we'll go to
yes.
Commissioner Lewis. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I share some of the points that were made by Commissioner Harrison, but understanding that this is a rezoning request, I'm just going to ask that the petitioner be mindful that as you move forward, especially if you're going to pursue a variance with BZA, you'll likely will be required to have a much more defined site plan for them. And then most definitely when you go through the building permit process, I would recommend you consider one of the offerings by the building department, a preliminary plan review. I think you might find that very helpful and should benefit the development of your project as you move forward. So excited about what you've presented here and look forward to you moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Esparza. Over to Commissioner Lewis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think this is a wonderful development, potentially a wonderful opportunity for the surrounding community. I would simply say to this commission that we have held developers to a much higher standard. And I would say to staff that we are presenting something without a site plan, no parking, nothing to show how it's going to impact the R2 that is nearby, nothing in terms of noise reduction, nothing in terms of the goings and comings of the various cars that would be coming into the neighborhood as a result of this development. And it has nothing to, sir, it has nothing to do with your development. I think the development is a wonderful opportunity. I believe that just from my understanding of what this commission is here for, that we need more information before we can move forward on the zoning change. I agree with my colleague that a site plan, to be able to look at a site plan that says ingress, egress, parking, would be very helpful to me. And I do know that we talked about a waiver. I just wanted to state to this body and to staff that I would have expected more information prior to bringing this petitioner before us. We have held other developers at a much higher standard, and I think that we should have the same standard for every petitioner that comes before this body. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Lewis. I'd like to ask a question to staff. Is a site plan required for rezoning petitions that aren't PDs?
Through the chair to Commissioner Udabi, that is a great question. That's something I don't know off the top of my head, but would defer to either Director Todd or another member of the staff if they know offhand.
Through the chair, they are not required in terms of the rezoning itself, as you are indicating, with regard to the PC, PCA, PD, the SD5 for casinos. Site plans and elevations are required. However, certainly consistent with Commissioner Lewis's remarks, the more adequate and thorough visuals communicate not only to commissioners but all of those, but the members of the public and all those who are participating in the process, having a better understanding of what it is that the petitioner is intending to do. Again, in this case, it is far and away more the use, as we talk about a standard rezoning, as well as not just this use, but the other uses that would be allowed, that are allowed in the R3.
Thank you, Director Todd. My comment is that I just wanted to say that I appreciate y'all for the presentation, and I think it's been really fun to hear about all of the work that you have been doing in the community for the past few years and to hear about your plans going forward. I also hear my fellow commissioners' desire to have site plans and to be able to more concretely imagine what this space would look like. In my personal view, I think that an R3 is a very slight zoning variation from R2 just to be able to allow the schoolhouse and community space. And so to me, it doesn't seem that big of a jump for zoning, but able to keep it by right. And so with that thought, I would like to ask if any commissioners want to make a motion or
Madam Chair, I have one more question too.
Absolutely,
before,
Commissioner
before
Harrison.
we move to that, I'd like to ask the petitioners: is there are you working on a specific time frame? Is there any sort of urgency around this zoning request?
Commissioner, I really appreciate that question, and the answer unequivocally is yes. As you can imagine, the funding of foundations are very cyclical. They have cycles, and they have determinations based off when you can apply and when you'll hear back from them. So that's why we've tried to get this in as soon as possible in terms of the deadline of the rezoning committee, just to make sure that we can get this in front of you all as soon as possible. So the answer is yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Harrison. Over to you, Commissioner Daniels.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like to restate my earlier motion to suspend same-day requirements and move approval of this item.
Support.
Director Todd, I'd like to ask for a roll call vote for this.
Certainly, Madam Chair, Commissioners, the two items should be separated, though. First, the dealing with the waiver, and then after a waiver has been granted, then a motion for approval would be appropriate.
Okay, thank you, Director Todd. With the seconded of waiving same-day action, all those in favor, please say so with the sign of aye.
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 All those opposed, say nay. Thank you. Now, the majority said aye, so I'd like to move to the motion for considering the request.
Do I need to restate the motion? I move that we support this item.
Support.
Madam Chair, could I add condition on that approval if possible? Just restating what I expressed earlier, that there be staff have the opportunity to review this site plan as it continues to evolve and provide comments on that and to make certain that it's salient with in this case what I feel would be important around some of the considerations that we've talked about.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
given that Commissioner Harrison stated it in the form of a condition would not be appropriate in this instance with the standard rezoning. If indeed you wanted to convey that concern, it should come as a separate action following the motion.
Okay, all right. And I'll restate it as a
any
separate.
motion to approve or disapprove.
Thank you, Director Todd.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Harrison. So with that, we'll continue with the motion from Commissioner Daniels. Director, yes? We can't do that. Okay, great. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Certainly, Madam Chair. Commissioner Daniels.
Yes.
Commissioner Esparza.
A few comments at the appropriate time.
Commissioner Harrison.
Yes, and with comments at the appropriate time.
Commissioner Lewis.
No, with comments at the appropriate time.
Commissioner Russell.
Support.
And Commissioner Udabi.
Support.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, the matter passes with 5 yeas and 1 nay.
Thank you so much, Director Todd. And now I'd like to pass it over to commissioners with their comments. Commissioner Esparza?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, I'm supportive of this because it is a rezoning. I would like to encourage the petitioner that it appears that your architect that's listed on the title block has done a lot of conceptual work regarding the development. The one piece that is missing is the site plan, as you've heard. So I would encourage you to make that a priority as you move forward. You have a site survey, you have all sorts of other visuals and diagrams regarding the actual building and the spaces and the materials. So obviously, you're very thoughtful and you have a vision that's been documented by your design architect. But again, just as a matter of encouragement, I believe focus should be placed on the site plan. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Esparza. Commissioner Harrison?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just want to echo the comments that I expressed earlier related to the proposed rezoning and the proposed project, recognizing the impact that it'll have on the community. Want to request, of course, that staff follow the petitioner along developing that site plan to ensure that those elements are added, and based on some of the concerns or questions that have been brought up tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Harrison. Are there any other comments that would like to be made? Would you like to, Commissioner Lewis?
Again, to the petitioner, Mr. Washington, I believe that this, based on the vote of my colleagues, is going to be, or could be, very highly likely to be a great addition to the community. My vote no may have been a vote yes had the staff been able to go back and bring back the information that I need in order to make an informed decision. As I stated previously, when developers come before this body, we are checking site plans. We are doing all kinds of things, and it's not just for the benefit of the change in zoning itself. It also helps the developer in terms of construction. Residential is very different from commercial. Site plan review with buildings and safety engineering is going to bring out many things that you may not at this point be aware of, which is why I asked if you had a seasoned developer helping you with this commercial building in this residential area in terms of all kinds of things that can come up that could actually, without a site plan today, that could actually stop this development from moving forward. And then the zoning is there. Even if this development doesn't move, the zoning will be in place for R3. And as been indicated, it's not that much different from R2, but there is a difference. So I am looking forward to future presentations, at least from my standpoint, to include the kinds of things that this body needs in order to make an informed decision. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Lewis. And fellow commissioners, are there any other comments about this item? Okay, well, thank you so much, Ms. Perales Lara, and for our petitioners. We appreciate it. Staff, is there any follow-up or next steps that we should know about, especially taking in commissioners' comments into consideration?
Yes, Madam Chair. So CPC will send associated items to DPW to review the legal description, and then from there, an ordinance will be then sent to law. Once we receive those items from law, we will be sending that to council, where a public hearing will be set and had at PED. Once the hearing is had, it will go to a vote for a final vote amongst all council members. We will also make sure to follow up with the petitioner regarding the site plan, and then encourage them to go down the PPR route once they do have a site plan developed, so that they can continue to work on that and work with other appropriate departments to ensure that concerns that the PPR may find is addressed, so that they are moving forward in the best way they possibly can.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Perales-Lara. Thank you all so much, and we're really excited to see this in the community. Appreciate it.
Close out.
Now I'd like to close out this public hearing. Excellent. And now I'd like to bring forward our 6 p.m. public hearing to consider the proposed zoning ordinance text amendment, Chapter 50 of the 2019 Detroit City Code, to update regulations, procedures, and definitions relative to housing and parking requirements as requested by the Office of the City of Detroit Chief Operating Officer.
Madam Chair.
Excellent.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, we are pleased, particularly given the way the start that this meeting got off to have arrived at this point, taking nothing away, obviously, from our first hearing, but as this commission is very aware, the item returning before you for hearing today is a rather significant and certainly an ambitious one, and we are pleased that we are able to come back to you this evening with this item. Again, this is a proposed set of zoning amendments that are initiated and requested by the Office of the Chief Operating Officer of the City of Detroit, them being by and large consistent with recommendations that have come from our own consultant, and are also consistent with discussion around other issues that relate to the primary thrust of this particular proposal, and that is to be able to increase the capacity by which housing can be developed in the city of Detroit, knowing that we are dealing with a housing crisis. So again, returning before you is the Deputy COO, Andy Taverner, as well as Director Dave Bell from Building and Safety Engineering, and the Deputy Director of the Department of Neighborhoods, Mr. Josh Roberson. We, of course, also have the full complement of CPC staff, and a number of our other city agencies are represented: the Planning and Development Department, Housing and Revitalization Department, and I believe possibly the Jobs and Economy team. No, oh, okay, thank you. All right. So we are prepared to answer any questions that you may have. And with that, I would like to yield the floor to Director Taverner in order to provide you with the presentation.
Thank you. Welcome back.
Thank you very much, Director Todd and Commissioners. Appreciate your time this evening. And very excited to be back before you today with an ordinance that the administration and CPC staff are both recommending for approval. I know at this point commissioners are relatively familiar with the components of this proposal, but I'll be doing a full public presentation on behalf of members of the public who may be joining us for the first time. So I wanted to begin with grounding us in where we are within this process. As commissioners know, we began in July with community engagement, which continued throughout the summer and fall. We then came for an introductory briefing, a first public hearing, an update to CPC, and finally our second public hearing here today. We are respectfully requesting same-day action from this body so that we can move forward to the City Council consideration process. And we have about 7 weeks remaining in the fall term of City Council, which is an ambitious timeline in order to approve this amendment. So, why are we here today? We have two goals of this proposal. The first is increasing housing supply to moderate the upward pressure on housing costs that we've seen here in the city. And the second is to level the playing field so that residents and small local developers are at the forefront of building that additional housing. Diving deeper into each of those goals, Detroit needs to build more housing, first and foremost in order to protect our long-term residents. The great news here is that Detroit now leads the state in population growth. We added about 7,000 new residents last year. The challenge we're now facing is that production of new housing did not keep pace with population growth. So we estimate that the city needs to build at least 1,100 more units every year to keep up with the demand for housing that we're seeing here in the city. And we know from experience in other US cities what will happen if that doesn't occur. So we've seen over several decades many cities that didn't build enough housing to keep up with demand, and the impacts of that are that there's additional competition for the existing homes, which drives up prices and rents, and ultimately can result in families being displaced who cannot afford those higher rents. So that's the cycle that we're looking to avoid here in Detroit by building sufficient housing to serve our long-term residents and new residents. You can see here on the right just a graphical representation of what we're trying to do in moderating the upward pressure on housing costs and reducing rental inflation. Turning now to the second goal, updating our zoning can also level the playing field for small local developers to build this housing. Detroit has a 936-page zoning code, and as you can imagine, with 936 pages of rules, that is a very complicated set of requirements to comply with. And we also have a relatively restrictive code. So most housing projects don't move forward in the city unless they get some kind of special approval or exemption from our current zoning requirements, which makes it slower, riskier, and more expensive to build housing here. The other item I'd like to emphasize on this page is that our complex and restrictive code puts local developers at a real disadvantage because bigger, more sophisticated developers can afford attorneys and consultants to navigate these special approval processes, to navigate these complicated rules. Most Detroiters may not have the same resources, so residents, as well as developers who are just getting started, and the smaller developers that we disproportionately see working in the neighborhoods. So part of our goal of this simplification and adding more flexibility is to level the playing field so that they can participate equally in the growth of our city's housing market. There are 5 key updates that I'll take you through one by one. The first 3 of these updates are all in the theme of allowing by right housing types that were traditionally built here in the city of Detroit but are no longer permitted by right under our current code. Number 4 is around making it easier to rebuild homes on vacant lots. And number 5 is around offering flexibility on the size of the parking lot in targeted cases. These proposals primarily affect R2 districts. That's everything in green on the map. They are denser residential areas, and half of R2 parcels are vacant, so we see a very high rate of vacancy in these areas. So the first proposal is around allowing more types of housing by right in R2. As I alluded to previously, before our current zoning rules took effect, it was very common for triplexes, quadruplexes or fourplexes, and townhouses all to be built in R2 districts. There are over 900 of those in R2, and half of the entire stock of that housing in the city is in an R2 district. However, under our current zoning code, they are conditionally zoned. They now require special approval to be built. We would like to propose making them by right again, so allowing by right in R2 triplexes, quads, and townhouses, recognizing that they were historically part of the fabric in those communities. So what would these buildings look like? The easy answer is that they look just like the houses that you see in the neighborhoods because so many of them already exist in these communities and were part of how those neighborhoods were developed initially. The second component of this proposal is around what type of housing is conditionally allowed in R2. So as a reminder, conditional zoning allows certain types of projects to proceed only after a public hearing where neighbors have an opportunity to weigh in on whether they'd like the development to proceed or not. Currently, in R2, projects can propose up to 8 units conditionally. We would like to expand that to up to 12 units conditionally with a maximum of 2 to 3 stories tall. So I want to emphasize this is the same height requirement that already applies in those districts. We're looking to simply allow a proposal of 4 more units than are currently permitted. And every single one of these projects would still go to a public hearing, notice to all of the neighbors nearby who could weigh in on it. Moving on to our second proposal, this is in the same theme of types of housing that were built in Detroit historically but are no longer permitted. So this is around accessory dwelling units, what we in Detroit call carriage houses. They are independent dwellings in the backyard, typically detached from the main house. You can see a couple examples here. These are currently barred in R2 districts outright, and they require a number of variances to be built in other districts typically. We would like to allow these in R2 through R6. First and foremost, because it offers diverse housing options to Detroiters. So one of the real joys of this process has been hearing from Detroit residents about what they'd like to see on their properties or in their neighborhood. We've heard from a lot of folks who would love to have an in-law suite, a place for their adult child, a place where a family member could reside at a lower cost than other housing options that are available. This would also present a relatively low-cost infill option for residents who may want to add a separate unit to their property. Our approach on ADUs is to pilot them with guidelines that err on the side of caution initially and could always be expanded or revised over time as we learn from the pilot. So those guidelines would include only allowing ADUs when the principal use on the zoning lot is a single-family, 2-family, or 3-family dwelling, only allowing 1 ADU per zoning lot, limiting the size of those ADUs, limiting the height of those ADUs to 2 stories. And similarly, I wanted to note for commissioners that you do have a memo on the dimensional standards we would be applying to ADUs. They're modeled closely on the dimensional standards that apply to garages, since that's the analogous type of housing, or excuse me, analogous type of structure. So our third proposal again continues in this vein. There are currently in the city over 500 apartment buildings on B2 and B4 parcels, so commercial corridors here in the city. However, they are a conditional use that requires special approval. Last year, this body proposed or recommended making mixed-use buildings by right on commercial corridors, so buildings that include both residential and commercial. We would like to extend that now to residential-only buildings, so we would propose making those by right on B2 and B4 parcels. That is a significant majority of commercial corridors in the city. And again, the rationale is giving residents more housing options. We know that Detroiters have diverse living situations, and many folks may want to live near the amenities that are available on a corridor. We also feel that bringing more residents to the corridors would help small businesses thrive. So moving on to a new topic, proposal number 4 is all around making it easier to rebuild housing on vacant lots. So the current dimensional rules in our zoning code make it very challenging to rebuild housing on vacant lots. Typically, it requires either a variance or if a developer strings together a series of pretty complicated exceptions in the current code, they can build a small single-family home by right, but that's the maximum that they can build by right. So our proposal is to make it easier to rebuild on vacant lots and allow kind of a wider variety of housing to be built on vacant lots by allowing sizing, spacing, and housing types that match the earlier homes in those neighborhoods. And as we've talked about in previous appearances, that would affect over 25,000 side lots that have been sold to Detroiters in recent years. So I wanted to get a little bit more into the details of this proposal in particular. This would apply citywide to lots below the minimum size or width, so below 5,000 square feet or 50 feet wide. It has by far the most impact in R2 through R6 districts because the single biggest change here is allowing any type of housing permitted in the district to be built, and those districts allow types besides single family. It has very minimal impact in R1, intentionally designed to be that way. And I want to note, especially for the public, in historic districts, historic district review will continue to apply in all designated districts, and the historic district review does include looking at whether the proposed setbacks and dimensional requirements are historically appropriate to the character of that neighborhood. So regardless of what we pass here today, the Historic District Commission would still have the final say on whether proposals and setbacks included in historic districts are historically appropriate. You can see here on the remainder of the slide a side-by-side proposal of what the current dimensional requirements on a 43 by 100 lot are compared to the proposal. You can see we've made a change primarily in side setbacks from 10.5 combined to a sliding scale that varies based on the type of housing that we're looking at and the district that we're in. Housing in R1 zones and on larger lots would have that larger combined side setback, so a very small difference from current law. As you get into denser districts like R2, it would move on to the lower end of the sliding scale, so have more flexibility compared to current law. Finally, the last component of this proposal is around giving more flexibility on the size of the parking lot in targeted cases. Just to recap why we are proposing this, the city's current zoning code often requires that buildings build a large parking lot, which the land and the money used to build that parking lot directly reduces what is available to build housing. As commissioners have now heard me say several times, each parking space costs $10,000 to build, and that cost gets passed on to Detroiters. Even though we know that 1/3 of Detroiters don't have a car, they still end up bearing that cost through increased rent and increased costs in their daily services. So our proposal is to give more flexibility on the minimum size of parking lot in certain targeted cases that I will outline. And the result of this would be that projects would have more choices based on their location, the clients they serve, the services that they provide, and their needs. But every project would still be able to build as many spaces as it needs. So getting into the details here, I'll start with residentially focused proposals here. The first is to standardize the parking requirement for multifamily buildings citywide to 0.75 spaces per unit. That is the rate that's in effect right now within half a mile of key transit lines. So a pretty significant share of the city, a broad swath of the city has this policy already. In other areas, we require 1.25 units. But we've seen that 0.75 is an appropriate level. It serves the needs of those developments. It's already in effect in most parts of the city. So we would propose standardizing for ease to that level. The second component is allowing alternative parking plans to be approved through building permit review for residential, civic, and commercial uses. And the idea here is that based on the specific location and needs of a project, an alternative besides compliance with our standard requirements may be appropriate. The prototypical example here is a senior affordable housing project where you may have very few residents with a car. And what we would do is look at the rationale as a city, determine if that rationale holds water, and ultimately determine through building permit review whether that alternative should be approved. Finally, we have several policies that are focused on small businesses and making it easier for small businesses here in the city. The first of those, I will note all three of these are expanding existing policies in city code. So the first would expand an exemption for the smallest commercial buildings from 3,000 square feet to 6,000 square feet. The second would allow retail and commercial uses citywide to meet their parking requirements through a district approach within a quarter mile. What that allows is for multiple small businesses to share one parking lot that's only permitted right now in certain zoning districts. And similarly, the third proposal would offer a discount in the parking calculation for small commercial spaces in mixed-use buildings. Again, that's permitted in certain zoning districts. Currently, we would be expanding it because we've seen that it's a successful policy. So before I close, I wanted to speak briefly to how this proposal fits with broader planning efforts, as well as our community engagement and community support that we have behind it. So starting with its connection to broader planning efforts, the Let's Build More Housing ordinance is really a down payment on passing key policies that have come out of quite a bit of strategic planning and community development engagement over the last decade. So that really starts in 2016 when the Planning and Development Department began doing 21 neighborhood framework plans. And those plans are based on very close engagement with residents, and they identify what residents would like to see happen in their neighborhoods, specific projects that they would advocate for, as well as, in many cases, noting zoning changes that would be needed to make those projects happen. Then in 2018, the City Planning Commission staff began the Zone Detroit process to look at broader updates that may be appropriate and wise in our zoning code. They published recommendations in 2020, And what this proposal before you does is take many of the recommendations from those neighborhood framework plans, from the Zone Detroit recommendations, and say, let's please move forward on them now, given the acute shortage of housing, that we have here in the city. This proposal does also align with what we anticipate in the master plan. So the master plan will look at this from a citywide perspective, and of course will guide kind of broader and longer term changes to the zoning ordinance through the Zone Detroit process. The last point that I wanted to note here is just that this proposal also aligns closely with the city's strategies for affordable housing development, with the pro-housing grant that we recently won from the federal government, as well as our strategies for expanding the public transit system and for vacant land use. So there's quite a bit of coordination, alignment, and we're all moving in the same direction across these various planning efforts. So I want to hand now to my colleague, Josh Roberson, who led our community engagement here, to speak briefly about what that entailed.
Thank you, Andy. My name is Josh Roberson, Deputy Director for the Department of Neighborhoods. I wanted to speak briefly about the community engagement process for these proposals. We presented amongst 14, during 14 community meetings throughout this process, which were inclusive of a citywide meeting for our Doncast, which usually happens every Monday at 5 o'clock, with approximately 100 to 200 residents in attendance virtually. We also had district-tailored, district-specific meetings, as well as neighborhood-specific meetings throughout our communities. Those in attendance were over 300 residents, and that was inclusive of several dozen block club and neighborhood association presidents who were sure to disseminate the information that we provided to their members and neighbors. And after presenting and socializing these residents and going through a Q&A process at each meeting, during the meeting I performed an opinion gathering exercise by going through each proposal individually and asking for a show of hands whether they thought it was a positive or a negative or a pro or a con. And we received overwhelming support among stakeholders and residents across the city during that time. I wanted to share some of the common themes and threads that were woven throughout our meetings. We talked about the development process. There was extensive Q&A about how people could participate in that and where do people see themselves in the policy. We also talked about the diverse needs and living situations of Detroiters as it pertains to thinking about themselves, not just singularly, but empathetically and corporately. And so we challenged our residents to, when they were receiving this information, to think about different residents' living situations and what about their own that they've had throughout their own life. So whether it be a single mother with children or a single father with children, or grandparents, senior citizens who need have different living situations and need different things, or whether it be a returning citizen or a person who has aging parents. We also really encourage them to think about all 208 neighborhoods that exist in the city of Detroit, even as it pertains to our college students. And we challenge them to think about their own lives and how their individual living situations have changed over the period of their life. We received strong support from different neighborhoods that had a lot of vacant land, such as McDougal Hunt, Island View, and Poletown in District 5, Jefferson Chalmers, Riverbend, and Morningside in District 4, Airport Sub and Nolan and North Campo in District 3, and Core City, where I live, in Central Southwest in District 6. We've had, throughout my career here, we've had hundreds of meetings where people are looking and have expressed for infill housing. They want to see neighbors, they want to see density back in their neighborhoods. For example, in Jefferson Chalmers, you have a street called Kitchener in District 4 who has almost no houses on the individual blocks. And so these individual block clubs and neighborhood associations have expressed over the years that they are looking for dense neighborhoods and neighbors to move back and build. I will also take the time to point out that we let the neighbors know that these proposals were restorative in nature, and as Andy, our deputy COO, pointed out, that a lot of these houses are already grandfathered in and already exist in these zoning areas. We also expressed in districts 1, 2, and 7 that there are a lot of R1 in districts 1, 2, and 7, but people would like to live in other districts as well, and so we need to diversify our housing stock in those other districts as well. So I'll pass it on back to Andy.
Thank you so much, Josh. And I wanted to close by briefly recapping the July 31st public hearing, since this is our second public hearing on this topic. On July 31st, we had 21 public commenters in support. I wanted to note that that included a number of smaller local developers, including Sonia Mays, David Alade, Edward Carrington, Stephanie Osterland from Habitat for Humanity, as well as Todd Saxe. We also submitted to this commission 19 letters of support from nonprofits. I apologize. We had 2 public comments in opposition at the previous public meeting. We submitted 19 letters of support from nonprofits, advocates, and local builders. That included folks like Chase Cantrell from Building Community Value, Ethos Development, Sinair, Janosco, Josh Elling at Jefferson East Inc., the Roxbury Group, as well as on the right-hand side here, a number of different advocacy organizations, Transportation Riders United, Southwest Detroit Business Association, Strongtown Detroit, and Central Detroit Christian. So with that, happy to take any questions from the commissioners.
Thank you all. Oh, yes, Director Todd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to put a further cap on the presentation, in your table packet, you will find the letters of support. I believe we have 22 letters that we received. Only 1 is in opposition. And also, of course, you do have the staff report in addition to the draft ordinance itself, as well as the memos from the COO and the Detroit Land Bank, further in response to questions and concerns raised at your previous meetings.
Excellent. Thank you, Director Todd, and thank you all for all of the work that you've been doing to incorporate our ideas and to come bring this back to us so we can have another public hearing. Before we get to public comment, I'd like to have the floor for my fellow commissioners. Does anyone have any questions or comments about this proposal? Over to you, Commissioner Lewis.
Is the Detroit Land Bank here? I would just like to know if the Detroit Land Bank was able to include all of the individuals that bought a side lot in terms of being able to avail themselves of this opportunity as well.
Ma'am, CEO Tammy Daniels is available to join via Zoom if you'd like to speak with her directly. I did want to note for the public who are listening here today and maybe listening for the first time that with the exception of 20 side lots, all 30,000 lots that have been sold by the Detroit Land Bank are able to be built on by right. So that is 99.9993% of side lots can be built on by right. For the remaining 20, those homeowners are able to build on the side lots if they seek a waiver of that provision in the deed from the DLBA. So there is a route to have that provision waived if those homeowners are interested.
Yes, and I do appreciate your explanation, and very well said and taken in the same as given. My concern is not only for the people who bought side lots today. My concern is also for those, I don't know, they've got what, so many thousands of side lots left to sell. My concern is not only for the individuals who are owning side lots today, but those individuals who will own side lots tomorrow, that they would have the same opportunity to build within this framework as any other developer person, or if it is determined that they're in a community like the North Corktown opposition letter talked about certain things that they want, there should be something in place where they can go through a process where they too can build on those lots. I would just like to see this opportunity advance to any person who owns a lot in the city of Detroit. And I just wanted a yes or no to my question. Is not anything, I'm not in a tearing hurry for the answer. I just would like to know. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Lewis. Are any other commissioners wanting to speak? Commissioner Esparza.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to acknowledge the great work and time and effort by the leadership here. our own director, Todd, the deputy COO, building department director, deputy from Department of Neighborhoods, and then being supported by planning and development that's also present with their leadership, as well as HRD. And then also, again, show my appreciation for our last meeting with the leader of the land bank. I thought that went very well. So I really appreciate that contribution, adding to this proposal. So with that, I look forward to the additional public comment that we'll receive shortly. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Esparza. Any other comments or questions from fellow commissioners? No? Looks like your presentation was quite thorough. Now we'll move to the public comment part of this presentation. I have quite a few public comment cards from folks in the room. What we will do is I will call up 2 folks at a time. You can come sit at these chairs that have microphones on it, and you can press the round button. It will turn green. So you will be able to be heard by everyone, including the folks online. And after we're done with the in-person public comments, then we'll go to online public comments. So if anyone is on Zoom, please raise your hand. And once we're done with the in-person public comment, we will go to the online ones. Also, again, this public comment right now will be for this presentation on the zoning ordinance changes. So if you were intending to speak in the general public comment, just let me know and I'll put your slip aside for the public comment after this subject. Okay, and with that, I would like to invite to these 2 chairs Bill Cheek and James Eveslage. Please come forward and then you can get started with your public comment. Oh, and one more thing. Everyone will have 2 minutes so that we can get through everyone's comments nice and succinctly. And with that, I'll pass it on over to you, Bill.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, but 1 second. We're going to get a timer up just to keep us on the clock. I just also want to say thank you to everyone who stuck around for public comment. I know we started this meeting a little bit later than anticipated, but I appreciate you and your interest in making public comment and being here as part of the public process. So I appreciate it. And with that, now I will pass it over to you, Bill.
Thank you. First, this is a total sham. I've heard this pitch from Andy and Josh a couple times now, and I want to add that the ridiculous lack of transparency and engagement is an insult to Detroiters. I would like to know what the final engagement number is, because they were bragging about engaging 120 people at one of these meetings. And in a city of 650,000 residents, they deserve some kind of an award for that. I'm glad you mentioned side lots, because as a resident in North Corktown, our neighbors have been prohibited from purchasing their side lots since 2015 because of a development hold by planning. And I am certain a cause of action exists because of because our neighborhood is being discriminated against in favor of deep-pocketed developers. Second, I'd like to direct my immediate scorn directly to the libertarian busybodies from the suburbs who want to stick their noses in our city's business. If this isn't the pinnacle of the dystopian effort to push aside individual city residents and community developers in favor of a citywide free-for-all for out-of-town developer speculators, then I don't know what is. I actually have an email where the group Abundant Housing Michigan, which is apparently made up from various strong towns chapters around the area, is calling for suburbanites to show up at the meeting to speak in favor of this zoning change. These are the libertarians who can't stand regulation and merely want to extract every available dollar from developments in Detroit that do nothing to solve the affordable housing crisis in America, but everything to pad their bank accounts and leave wreckage in our communities in their wake. I am disgusted that Mayor Duggan and his bumbling hand-picked planning department stooges would attempt to jam this plan down the throat of residents after he grabbed his coat and his hat and made the campaign bus in seconds flat as he runs for governor. This is the most significant change to the Detroit zoning code in decades and requires the full consideration of the new administration and council, not just a quick review and approval as the mayor rushes out the door. And by the way, we're still in the midst of a rezoning process for the entire city. I'm sorry.
Pardon me. The 2 minutes is up, so I appreciate your comment, and I'll have to go on to our next person, Mr. Evslaj. Thank you so much.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I wanted to come here today and speak in favor of the zoning reform. I'm a small-scale developer. I do original Victorian renovations in the Corktown and Southwest Detroit area. And I have a lot of developer friends in the area as well that work both in Southwest and in West Village. And we're all incremental developers. And so we talk to each other. We all live in this city. No one's from the suburbs. And knowing the issue and knowing what faces the city, a major thing that gets in our way is not being able to create the things that used to be here. You know, like the zoning code precludes us doing the things that were in the neighborhoods to begin with. So it's really a zoning code that kicks out the small developer in favor of the people who can do exactly what you were saying, which is pay all this money and put a big 5/1 in Brush Park and, you know, totally go against what was the character of that neighborhood because people like us can't do anything by right? So if you want more 5/1s, if you want more, massive, 30 houses in a row, all that look the same, all by the same developer, all by Holcomb, well, it's a product of the zoning code that we have. If you don't like the status quo, we got to change it. So I'll yield my time.
Thank you so much. Now I'd like to call to these two chairs Mr. Tim Cook and James H. Perry.
Good evening. Appreciate the opportunity to give public comment. I'm a District 5 resident, and I'm here to give my full support for this ordinance. I haven't followed this all the way through the process, but I understand what I do understand about the zoning ordinance is that it's going to be hugely impactful to actually creating additional housing units. I've only been a Detroit resident for a few years now, but I come with some perspective from Atlanta as a longtime resident of Atlanta, and seeing how these types of changes in Atlanta have already produced some very impactful and beneficial changes for residents. Atlanta also worked on expanding its access to ADUs and also a lot of transit-oriented development expansion, and increasing like hundreds of units each year is massively impactful for the housing affordability issue. So I'm fully in support of this, and I'm really happy to see this moving forward in Detroit.
Thank you so much for your comment. On to the next person.
Good evening. I have been an Uber driver mainly in the Detroit area, but mostly concentrated in Detroit since 2014, and the city has changed a lot since then for the better. I wholeheartedly support this proposal because I think this will keep a lot of the positive momentum going and extend the benefits to more people in more neighborhoods and give people closer access to jobs that are near transit or even within walking distance. Just last night, I took someone home from a Taco Bell at 10 Mile to the east side, and I couldn't help but think if there were more apartments allowed by right on business corridors, some people might be able to have a job, an entry-level job, mind you, that they only need to take an elevator down to reach instead of paying for an Uber. I also note that Jefferson Chalmers was mentioned a few moments ago. I was very sad when Norma G's closed because I thought that was a great restaurant. And one of the things I couldn't help but notice was that it had its own parking lot, and the restaurant was always packed. It was always full. There was never enough seats there. But right next to it was a church parking lot that went unused. And so this proposal to allow people to share parking requirements makes a whole lot of sense, because if I remember correctly, Norma G's wasn't even open on Sundays. So I don't think the church and the restaurant would have overlapped in terms of usage. And under the current code, I believe they were not able to share those spaces. So fully in support. I thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for your comment. I'd like to call the next two folks, Ian Laidley and an Amy Hemeter. Do you mind to come to these chairs, please? And you can begin whenever you're ready.
Hi, I'm Ian. I live in Island View, and I'm strongly in favor of this proposal. When I moved into the house I live in now, I had no direct neighbors, vacant lots and vacant homes all around me, closest neighbor several hundred feet away. And local developers have been doing a really good job of rehabbing the houses around me. I have one close neighbor now, but I'll have 4 more soon. That's nice. But when I talk to them on the street, they tell me that the reason they can only rehab, not really build new units on all the vacant land near me, is that it's just too much work to get the variances, to go through the paperwork. They can't afford the consultants they need in order to build anything. And it's really exciting that I might have, 5 neighbors soon, but I could have 15 more, and that would be really lovely. And it's my understanding this proposal would cause that. So I'm strongly in favor. Thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you so much for your comment. On to you, Ms. Hemeter.
I also live in Island View, and that comment resonates so much with me as well. I have been thrilled to watch neighbors move into rehabbed homes that were previously abandoned, and also I love my current neighbors, the Make It Home program. One of our neighbors just was able to get his house from that, and now he's a homeowner for the first time. So that's very exciting as well. But yeah, I agree that I want more neighbors. I want the vacant land to be built on. I want things in the neighborhood. I also want more affordable housing, and there's an affordable housing building proposed very close to my home near the Butzel Rec Center. And looking at their diagrams, they're going to have to cut into part of the park for the parking for the affordable housing. I support the affordable housing, and I will support it even if it cuts into the park. But I do feel that, it's going to be a harder sell to build that affordable housing if we have to lose park space. And it's already sometimes difficult to get affordable housing support in the neighborhood. So that's something that I think about with this proposal, that more flexibility would allow for us to keep that park and also have that affordable housing in our neighborhoods. I'm also a transit rider, and density and walkability are very important to me because it's not nice to walk across a really big parking lot, to take buses between mini malls with big parking lots. So I'm really in support of this, and I just echo the person before me really said it better than I could have. I can't wait to have more neighbors in my Island View neighborhood. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Hemeter. The next two people that can come to the chairs to give their comment is a Sean Minty and a John Wiley.
Hello.
Hey there.
Is the time going to start?
As soon as
there it is. Okay, cool. I'm Sean Minty. I live in Island View, District 5, and I've lived there for 4 years now. I live in a duplex. When I first moved there were a lot of abandoned houses near me, and anything that makes it easier to build will make neighborhoods safer is another thing that this will help. So when I first moved in, the house next to me was like a former crack house, dope house, and I was walking my dog, and another neighbor was like, hey, don't walk your dog over near by that bush because there's like a bunch of heroin needles in that bush, right? And there's like a bunch of empty, like wasted lighters behind the house, and it's an area where we have a guy that comes to, like, you know, get high and hang out and sleep on the house. So the house was rehabbed, and then all that got fixed up, right? So now we have vacant land. And vacant land next to us makes it easier for certain things to happen, like people set houses on fire. Because when people aren't looking at things, or there aren't as many people on a street, it's easier to do things like set abandoned houses on fire, right? So there's some side effects to having density that often aren't thought about, but just like when you have more people around, there's more eyeballs and people tend to act more appropriately. And I also want neighbors because I like people and I like to have more people around me, and just having a lot of vacant land is not something that is good to look at or live around. So I fully support this proposal, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Minty. And on to John Wiley.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm full support of this proposal as well. I've had the pleasure to move into the North Corktown neighborhood after living in various parts of the city for the last better part of the last decade. The home that I'm currently in is one of these homes that would need to seek a variance conditional use, a townhome. I think it's a great addition to the neighborhood, adding diverse types of housing to neighborhoods, single family, duplexes, triplexes. All these add to the neighborhood because it allows for a diverse type of people to live in the neighborhood. If you look at places like Woodbridge, like West Village, they have a diverse types of housing. They have apartments, they have single family homes, and it allows people of different ages, of income levels, of different areas, stages of their life to live in the same neighborhood and stay in that neighborhood for their entire life. I also have the pleasure of working with a lot of local developers who live in the city who are looking to do rehabs on apartments, to build things like townhomes and small apartments. And unfortunately, a lot of times they do run into roadblocks when it comes to seeking variances that take time. And when you start adding weeks or months to a development timeline, you start to lose funding, you start to lose grants, you start to lose out on opportunities, and it can often kill developments that would be very good for areas. So to reiterate, just very in support of this proposal. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Now I'd like to call to the seats of Peter Young and Jaden Slaughter.
Excuse me, who do we give our cards to?
I'll tell you.
This is ridiculous. Like, this whole thing. I cannot believe you people.
All right.
This is not on your agenda, by the way, at all. Why is it not on the agenda?
Excuse me?
Why did I get 100 messages from residents?
Hi, I'm so sorry.
Because nobody had any clue this was even happening.
Okay. I'll pass it over to Mr. Young.
Good evening. I support the Let's Build More Housing Detroit text amendments. As a new resident of the city, I want more neighbors in a community that resembles the great cities of the world, with an active and vibrant streetscape. I want to live in a place that welcomes people and offers a real alternative to automobile-dependent suburbs. I moved here from one of those car-dominated suburbs because I want to live in a vibrant city that is welcoming and doesn't require a car. In addition to being a new resident, I also work with Detroit's zoning ordinance daily. I'm deeply familiar with how confusing and overly complicated the process is. The current system creates unnecessary uncertainty and hurdles for building new housing, precisely when we need more of it. Thank you for considering these proposals. I hope we can keep this momentum going forward and continue to build a stronger and more welcoming Detroit.
Thank you for your comment, Mr. Young. Over to Ms. Slaughter.
Good evening. I would like to express my support for the zoning ordinance text change. I believe it will make housing be built more easily and more affordably, and help make the city, through density and more houses being built, make the city more bus, bicycle, and walking friendly, which is very important to me as a Detroit resident who does not have a car. And I think that will help with the affordability, which hopefully will help me one day be able to afford a house in Detroit. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comment. I would like to call up Mitchell Manti and Deanne Austin.
You can go.
I'm sorry. Good evening, commissioners, and to the leadership. My name is Deanne Austin. I am a proud native Detroiter, born and raised, and a resident of District 2. I am here again to voice my strong support for the proposed zoning amendments that I believe will help Detroiters build more housing and create more fair opportunities, and eventually stop the displacement of legacy Detroiters. For instance, I live right near the Palmer Park Boulevard Apartments in District 2, right on that cusp of Highland Park, and it once was full of life and now it has been abandoned. More bad news I hear from it, and I just can't imagine if we reimagine what we can do with these spaces. Right now, our zoning codes often stand in the way of meeting Detroiters' real housing needs. Too many of our residents face limited options, whether they are seniors looking to downsize, young families hoping to stay in the city, or renters looking for affordable and dignified homes. Like the speakers who went before me, I get so excited when I see new neighbors. On my street of Inverness, we are constantly getting new families in, and then the other side of Inverness, about 10 years ago, with fires, was completely depleted and empty. And so I'm always excited to get new neighbors, and I want to keep that momentum going. We know that our zoning code currently stands in the way of meeting Detroiters' needs, and we need to somehow cut the red tape. Again, I want to shout out leadership, because coming from the last meeting, just to see the momentum and the development sounds really, really exciting and promising. As someone who does not own a car and does not drive, I want to be around walkable neighborhoods that are safe. And I really believe that we can find housing that fits the needs of everyone. So again, I am fully in support of the new proposed changes, and I thank you for your time.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Austin. And now I'll pass it over to Mitchell Manty.
Hi. I'm Mitch Manty. I live in District 2 as well. I have for about 5 years up in Green Acres. I live right by Livernois, one street over. And one of the things I love about it is that it's very walkable. One thing I'd like to see a lot more of is a lot more neighbors. I think you've heard a lot of that today. And, so I am emphatically supportive of this amendment and the changes that are being proposed. I'd also like to point out my own perspective. I actually come from sort of a family of planning commissioners. This is kind of odd, but both my dad's a planning commissioner out in the suburbs, and so is my sister. So I respect what you guys do. I know it's a thankless job, and you get a lot of griping, and you don't get a lot of thank yous. But this is a truly momentous change that's being proposed. It's a massive change to Detroit's housing policy, and it is one that is appropriate. Most appropriate for Detroit's elected representatives on city council to consider. It is something that I know that administratively you guys have to vote on it, but I really think you should send it to city council so that Detroit's elected representatives can deliberate on this, so that the citizens have a much more significant opportunity to weigh in. Because these are very important changes, and I think this is just part of the democratic process, and we got to let it play out. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comment, and I just want to reinforce that once this is voted on from our body, it will, unless staff corrects me, it will be going to City Council for their vote before the end of the year.
Right, but it needs to be
ideally.
approved out of here, right?
Yes, it would be the
Yeah.
step after
Yeah,
our
exactly.
body. Okay, thank you so much. Next to the chairs, I would love to call Saru Sharani and Willie Mays.
What was the other name?
Willie Mays.
Like the Tigers player?
I hope so. That'd be exciting. Go for it.
All right, so thank you to the commission and thank you to everyone for sticking around and giving some very exciting public comment. My name is Soros Sharani. I'm a longtime resident of Detroit, specifically of the LaSalle Gardens neighborhood in District 5. And I'm here in strong support of the zoning proposal. I'm actually not in real estate at all. I work as a doctor at Henry Ford Hospital. And I want to approach this and point out the real health benefits that improved zoning can have for Detroit residents. So there's a lot of studies and evidence that shows that new housing, along with increased walkability and density, has a huge positive impact on the mental and physical health of residents through better access to businesses and to healthcare services, which would come about if this plan was passed. And so I think this would be a great asset to longtime Detroiters who, for many reasons, have unfortunately struggled with health over the decades. I also think that zoning improvements have been shown to work in other American cities that have passed recent changes to their zoning ordinances. This has either brought down or stabilized the median rent, which has put more money back into the pockets of their residents. And I believe that this is something that all Detroiters deserve as well. I think that adding more density and more types of housing, which this proposal would allow Detroiters to do themselves, can have a real economic impact as well on everyday Detroiters. And I think that we deserve that opportunity in our own city. Thank you to everyone once again for the time, and I yield back the remaining 22 seconds.
Thank you, Dr. Arani. I don't see Willie Mays in the chair. Maybe he's at the game. But I will ask to the chairs, Reverend Clark and Tyson Gersh.
After you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm a native Detroiter. I've been here 71 years, and I welcome all you newcomers to Detroit. Mr. Todd knows me from way back when I presented my plan to develop in Detroit years ago. I still own my house unguarded between Davidson and McNichols. I've had it since 1982. Right now over there, and I didn't hear anybody speak about that area because those houses are not double level and big like the ones that you presented. They're just single bungalows. And right now, and I talked to a few people that I know in the city about some condos already built on Lumpkin between Davidson and Victoria, which is so, I mean, in the community, it's so outlandish. I'm all for development, like I just shared with you, that I was trying to do that 30, 35 years ago in Detroit myself. I've been here all my life. I watched the demise of our city, okay? So all the newcomers, we welcome you, but we have to consider those that are already in the neighborhood. Those houses in that area are not 2 and 3 levels high. They're small bungalows. So bringing in this kind of construction, which I'm excited, because I could turn my house into the same thing. But what do you do with those that's already there with this kind of development? How would they be intrigued in the development? Hey, Ken. I'm Cheryl Clark. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Reverend Clark. And then I'll pass it on over to Mr. Gersh.
Hi, Tyson Gersh, 15-year resident, Secretary of the Lower North End Neighborhood Association. Interesting that not a single neighborhood leader in the North End was aware of any of this. We know all of you. It's so strange that you had all these meetings with block club presidents, and yet none of our block club presidents were made aware of it at all. Mr. Cheek was correct in saying this would be the largest change to our zoning ordinance in modern history. You guys have got to be kidding me. This is not on your agenda. I found out about this after it had already started, and after you faked the start of this for 40 straight minutes. I mean, shame on you. And this perfect combination of participants who speak to each angle, I mean, reading from scripts, you've got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. What are you people doing? This is a huge change. You stop trying to sneak stuff through. There was no huge tons of residents meeting and everybody said, oh, we don't want to have as much parking for future residents. That never happened. You cannot convince me that ever happened. And anybody who says it is a liar. Nobody in neighborhoods is saying, oh, we have so much extra parking. Let's reduce the amount because I have more spaces to park than I need. Nobody is saying that. Everybody's saying quite the opposite. And you're framing this as like, oh, it's like a minor change and you're putting all these other things before the meat and potatoes of this amendment. Like, are you people insane? Do you think the people are that stupid? Shame on all of you. What are you doing? You have to stop conducting government in this way. You wonder why people are so angry. I have been in court for 2 straight years against a California billionaire trying to put 200 units surrounding my house that would eclipse my personal greenhouse that, again, I've been for 15 years. You act like residents don't have rights. You act like we're in the way. You're the problem. You are the ones creating these issues.
We're hearing you, and I think we're going to have to stop
the structured limited amount of time to participate.
Everyone has the same opportunity for. You can yield the floor
Okay.
to someone else so that they
Well, please don't misrepresent
Thank you so much.
opportunities that we do have, because those meetings, the outcome of those was not what
Going
was
to need to move to the public comment online. I appreciate you being here and being able to share your opinions, just like all of the other opinions that were shared. Now I'd like to ask which staff member would be supporting us with the public comment online.
Madam Chair, I can help with that.
Thank you, Mr. Jeffries.
No problem. The first speaker is Inclusionary Planning Matters.
Oh, yes, and I will cut off the online hands being raised after this first speaker. So please raise your hand before this first speaker is finished so that we can get you all in to speak. And then the first speaker, please go ahead whenever you're ready.
Yes, good evening. May I be heard?
Yes, you may.
Yeah. Folks, I've lived in California. Anyway, this is the most corrupt city I have lived in the United States. I'm so sick of the manufactured community engagement. Mr. Roberson, when he was the District 5 manager, I sent him plenty of emails. He didn't respond. No wonder he's the head of the planning department. And I don't trust, anyway, you know what? And you let that solar scam go through. Hey, believe me, folks, that's not going over too well with people outside of Detroit. And again, there are people in those neighborhoods that wanted, what were you talking about here? Infill housing. And then a lot of people who had questions about that didn't get asked back. And yes, we've been in court against the BZA because all of a sudden, and they're trying to charge us over $4,700 for transcripts they're already required to have in the record per Detroit City Code 50-2-66. And so where was the community engagement? Just like the secretive community engagement about the master plan advisory group. Oh, why can't that be open to other people? I wrote those people email after email asking to be included, and I only got invited to one meeting. And then I hear they've had all these meetings with stakeholders. So I totally second the emotion of the first speaker and Mr. Tyson Gersh. And newsflash, this city, why is there a housing shortage? Because they were bulldozing good houses. They diverted $250 million of hardest hit fund money that was supposed to help people stay in their homes, and they called it foreclosure prevention through demolition. And then one of the D5 representative on this commission, Gayanga, got caught grinding up, putting Northland Mall dirt in the dirty dirt holes. So there's probably more corruption on this body that we don't know about. And just no.
Thank you, Ms. Inclusionary Planning. I see that there are 17 hands left, so we'll cut it off after these 17 hands. And then, Mr. Jeffries, do you mind to bring forth the next speaker, please?
Madam Chair, the next speaker is Janice Hazel. They should be allowed to speak.
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners, and staff. My name is Janice Hazel, and I am the president of the Aviation Subdivision Neighborhood Association, representing residents within the boundaries of Joy Road, Tireman, Wyoming, and Schaefer. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the community. We wish to state our opposition to the proposed citywide R2 zone amendment that would allow increased densities such as triplexes, fourplexes, townhouses, and accessory dwellings as a matter of right. Our concerns: loss of community voice, granting higher density, uses by right, eliminates meaningful input from residents who live in and maintain these neighborhoods every day. Development should be reviewed case by case, not imposed blanket wide. Conflict with the master plan. The proposed approach undermines the city's master plan and established development plans, which are designed to balance growth, livability, and stability. Equity and historical context. Detroit's Black residents have already experienced multiple waves of displacement, most famously the erasure of Black Bottom through the construction of I-375. Yet once again, the voices of legacy Black residents are being overlooked in favor of development. Those speaking most in favor of this ordinance are newer white residents, not the longtime Black Detroiters who have borne the brunt of disinvestment and displacement. This is not equitable policy making. We oppose the R2 changes. The people supporting this ordinance tonight are not legacy Black Detroiters who lived through repeated displacement. We need policies that protect us, not erase us. Please reject this proposal. We urge the commission to reject the by right citywide rezoning of R2 districts. The Aviation Subdivision Neighborhood Association believes strongly that developments in Detroit must proceed with equity and accountability.
Thank you, Ms. Hazel.
Madam Chair, next speaker is Ross Shaw.
Thank you.
Ross Shaw.
Can I be heard?
Mr. Shaw?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for giving me the time to make a comment. So my name is Ross Shaw. I'm a resident of District 5, and I'm strongly in favor of this proposal. In the neighborhood I live in, my block is filled with single-family houses and surrounded by intermittent single-family houses with blighted multifamily and apartment buildings. I think about what it must have been like to have a diversity of housing and diversity of residents in the neighborhood back in the day. I'd echo other comments that I want more neighbors. I'm also excited about these proposed changes because of the reduction in parking minimums and the possibility of increased transit-oriented development. Detroit already has a sea of parking lots around the city, so it's exciting. Detroit already has a sea of parking lots around the city, so it's exciting to see the city begin to change their thinking and realize that we need less parking, not more. As an avid transit and bicycle rider, I look forward to these changes to make Detroit more dense, walkable, and safe for all of its residents. I yield my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw.
Madam Chair, the next speaker is EJ. EJ should be able to speak.
Hey there. EJ, are you there?
EJ should unmute their device.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Hi, my name is Emma. I live in District 6. I think it's been really hopeful to hear folks speak in favor of something because they want more neighbors. So I'm also here to speak highly in favor of these zoning changes. I think they are really consistent with our neighborhood framework plans and the recommendations that came out of the Zone Detroit process. And I've also been thinking about how prohibitive zoning really does hurt the little guy. And I don't think Detroit should be a place where only behemoth developers can navigate the process. So permissive zoning for more housing types is, to me, necessary to increase the housing supply and curb increasing costs the way that we've seen it blow out of control in other cities. I'd also like to lower barriers for people to bring new types of housing online so that I think as one other resident said, like, I want to live in neighborhoods that have class diversity, age diversity, to be stronger long term. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Miss Emma.
Madam Chair, the next speaker is David Graff. David, you should be able to speak.
Okay. Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
So I'm a resident of District 5, and I'd like to express my support for the proposed zoning changes. I think it's very important that we have a city with vibrant, walkable streets and places where people can live near businesses and transit, and where streets are more vibrant. And I also think it's a good idea to have a variety of housing because not everyone wants to live in a single family house. And we need additional options, including more duplexes, triplexes, and small apartment buildings, which I think the current zoning code makes difficult. And I think by adding this flexibility, that would also help improve the affordability of housing within the city. And so for those reasons, I support the zoning changes, and I think it's a step in the right direction. And I hope this commission will vote in favor of the newly proposed changes.
Thank you, Mr. Graff.
Madam Chair, the next speaker is phone number ending in 124. You should be able to speak.
I already spoke, but I call in on two devices because frequently they don't let me call through.
Madam Chair, the next speaker is Dorothea Williams Arnold.
Thank you,
Sorry
Mr.
about
Jeffries.
that. They should be able to speak. Dorothea Williams Arnold, you should be able to speak.
Ms. Williams Arnold?
My name is Dorothea Williams Arnold. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I am from Aviation Subdivision, and I'd like to second Janice Hazel's comment. My biggest concern is that it doesn't seem as though the city of Detroit has done enough to educate residents on the implications of or repercussions of having this zoning changed. I think that they should allow residents in every community to chime in on this. Also, I don't know if they're going to treat every community the same as it relates to these multiple these different apartment buildings and the ways that they may affect blight in our communities. Right now in Aviation Subdivision, we're dealing with a lot of rental properties creating a vested-driven blight. Okay, and so I'm just hoping that this ordinance or this new zoning policy does not create a situation where we have more residents coming into our community and the city of Detroit not enforcing ordinances, blight ordinances. So we are in a kind of a working class neighborhood. Will they enforce blight ordinances the way they might in, say, District 5? So I think that they should give every community an opportunity to chime in on this. And I think they must, the city of Detroit, I think you guys, before you change the zoning law, I think you should put it out in the public and inform people and educate. Do a little bit more to educate people. I got a notice in the mail, but did my neighbors get a notice in the mail? Was it written in language that they understand? I think the public needs to be educated a little bit more thoroughly on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Madam Chair, the next speaker is Josh Lork.
Hi, my name is Josh Lorkey. I'm a resident of North End, and I am strongly in favor of this zoning change. There are many houses in North End that had to be built on multiple lots because of setback requirements, so I'm excited for a zoning code that allows more historic forms to be built. For the record, I am a North End resident, and I don't think these changes go far enough in terms of parking. I'd like to see parking requirements eliminated altogether throughout the entire city. Detroit property owners and small developers should be able to build without the burden of having to build expensive parking. More neighbors, less cars. Thank you for your time.
What street do you live on?
Madam Chair, the next speaker is phone number ending in 181.
Thank you. Phone number ending in 181. Do you mind to unmute?
Yeah, this is Cindy Dara, and I'm running as a write-in candidate for Detroit City Clerk because I want approval voting, which is more democratic. You can vote for more than one person when you got a crowded field. Sometimes that's a better way to do it, to get somebody you can stomach.
Excuse me. Do you mind to stop for a minute? We have public comment in general coming up next.
There, listen, I want to tell you, I'm from Wichita, Kansas. The thing I see that I think is ridiculous is you let people go and build these things right between two houses, and then everything's too close. The water drainage is critical, and it's often the houses are already too close. They were greedy when they did these lots in the first place. You're letting people, they should split the lot in half and give it each half to the neighbors, or but not build a house that's too close to another house. And and you should set up some department that's separate from the blight type of thing that you get from the city, punishment, and have them they go out and help people decide how to do something right. I've made so many mistakes on my building, and if I could have gone to the city and said, look, show me the best way to do this, and then if I knew that, I could require that from people that I found. It's hard to find people now who know how to do it. But this whole thing is backwards. And because what you're doing is just letting people put houses, buildings, because they want to be in a certain neighborhood. They go real close to another house and pick out an empty lot that's right next to somebody. You need to have some requirements about how far the houses that are infill have to be from the houses that are already there.
Thank you so much for your comment. Mr. Jeffries?
Madam Chair, the next speaker is Jacob Graham. Jacob, you should be able to speak.
Hi, I live in District 5 in the Island View neighborhood. The back porch, my back porch is falling off of my house, and in order for me to rebuild it, I had to apply for a variance through the Board of Zoning Appeals because the existing house violates the setback requirements, the side setback requirements, and the rear setback requirements, and the percentage of the lot that's built on. And so I am in support of this proposal to make it easier for people around me to fix their back porches. I have a lot of neighbors that have the similar porches that are falling off, sinking, and everyone around me got a notice in the mail when I went through the variance process, and everybody was pretty surprised that that I had to do that kind of thing to get a permit to just rebuild my porch as is, because the zoning rules right now are so restrictive, and this proposal would allow for our houses to be rebuilt as the way that they are. Thank you so much.
Madam Chair.
Thank you so much.
The next speaker is Shakira.
Excellent.
Shakira, you should be able to speak.
Yes, thank you. I am torn because I would approve or agree with the zoning, being able to build a structure or another residential home next to my home or in my lot the same size as my home. That's okay. I think the residents of Detroit would agree with that. The problem is if I did not own my side lot and the developer came into the city and say, hey, I want to build an apartment next to your house, then I would have a problem with it because it's disproportionate to the rest of the residents or the rest of the homes that's already on the block by them being or building a 2-family flat that doesn't look like the houses on the block. I believe that's where the Detroiters or the Detroit residents will have a problem with this proposal. I don't see a problem after that. However, I do see a problem with the new Detroit residents that's coming in, giving their opinion, and the rest of the Detroit residents that are born and raised here did not get a chance to speak about the situations because we're the ones that's living in the homes in Detroit and been here since birth. Thank you for giving me your time.
Thank you so much.
Madam Chair, the next speaker is Brian Help. Brian Help, you should be able to speak.
Hi, thank you.
My name is Bryant. I live in Woodbridge on Commonwealth Street, and I also want us to have less parking for future residents. I think we have way too much parking already. The street parking is enough. I've never had a problem finding a parking spot. I really don't share other commenters' concerns about like a supposed lack of existing parking in the city. Never had a problem. I think there are a couple of good concerns, but aren't necessarily reasons to oppose this. I agree with some concerns about the way demolition and land bank development holds have been handled in the past. But I think that there's a very convincing through line to the previous plans, like going back to 2016, that were presented in this proposal. So I really don't agree about a lack of community engagement or that this is being sort of pushed on people. I think it's very clear that this has been in the works for over a decade, and it's actually a sort of incremental change to the existing code. So I know it feels like a lot to some people, but I'd actually like to see it go a little further, both in terms of parking and in terms of the retaining the R1 district. And I think that's also a good example of the community engagement that's already happened on this, and that community engagement was serious and it did take people's objections into account. The fact that people's concerns about the existing low density residential districts, and that a lot of the changes around vacant land rebuilding in those districts protects the same size and the same sort of lot restrictions. I'd like to see that go further. I think it's a decent compromise and a good nod to the community engagement and the incremental zoning process that was employed here. So thanks for letting me comment. I'll yield the rest of my time.
Thank you for your comment. You're going to call the next one.
The next speaker is Richard, and they should be allowed to speak now.
Richard,
hi, everybody.
Welcome.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. I'd just like to thank everyone who has presented and spoken before me. I'm Richard. I live in District 5. In the New Center area, to be specific. I understand that there's been quite some fiery tempers and strong opinions about this proposal. To be fully transparent, am very much in favor of it. I understand that there's concerns about displacing the longtime Detroit residents, and I totally understand that. I think the thing that I'd like to point out is that the enemy of longtime Detroit residents is not density. It is fat cat landlords and building developers. By making it easier to develop and build new property, you're actually introducing competition into that marketplace and increasing the housing supply, which does the opposite. And this is, Detroit's not the first city to consider a proposal like this. This is abundantly apparent all across America. And on a related note, I'm not the president of any association or anything like that. I'm a 24-year-old and a renter in Detroit. And as someone who has dreams of owning my own home one day and was not born before 1965, it's getting pretty bleak realizing those dreams. And my generation is not going to be able to own homes, period, if we don't increase density, if we don't increase housing supply. So I know this proposal is not perfect, but in the end, I think that we should not let perfect be the enemy of good. And I am fully in favor of this. Thank you guys very much.
The next speaker is Charlotte, and they should be allowed to speak now.
Hello. I wanted to echo that I also just heard about this meeting at 7:44, partway through it. But the issues are very important to me. I'm a Detroit resident. I live in District 9. I've heard a ton from District 5, and it sounds like this will be maybe good for the residents in the denser parts of Detroit near the riverfront, Woodward, downtown, Midtown, where you can actually have a walkable city. a lot of the remainder of Detroit is not going to be walkable. You need a car to have a good life here, because unless you have like a fully remote job and can Uber Eats your food, like you need a car for most of the Motor City. It's a spread out city. What this does, I haven't had time to review all of it, but it massively reduces the parking requirements for apartments, and not all of the apartments are going downtown. Some of them are going in residential neighborhoods. So to take it from 1.25 per unit to 0.75 per unit means that you could have like a 2-bedroom apartment with like 2 or 3 people living in it, and they have 0.75 parking spaces. So this is a problem that we've been seeing in the neighborhoods. Also, to echo what Shakira said, this is a ton of changes. This is it's such a significant change, and they're shoving it all in one document instead of letting people vote on it more piece by piece, which I think it warrants because there's so many changes in here. And I think it's also Detroit, there's this narrative, people keep saying that there's a shortage of houses and you can't get a house here. Detroit has more cheaper houses than any other city I'm aware of, and it was a city built for use with cars. The problem is not all of them are in mint condition, but that doesn't mean that is part of what makes it accessible to buy one if you're willing to work on it a little bit. And there are tons of houses that are also in good condition. They're just in somewhat neighborhoods that were previously depressed. But if you let people buy houses, that's what's going to bring Detroit back.
The next speaker is community engagement, and they should be allowed to speak now.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for this time. I'd like to say that I oppose the changes to the R2 zoning code changes that are being proposed. I think there needs to be more community engagement, and it also needs to be district by district, because truly every district is a little different. The established residents need to be involved in community planning and engagement when adding developments that overshadow current housing, because many people have made an investment for a lifetime, and all of a sudden big developers with lots of money can come in and just throw something up. It just totally erupts the life of anyone who's put out a great deal of money to be there and stay with Detroit. I'd like to say that I am a resident Detroit for many, many years, over 40. I live in District 5, and our block club is very active. To my knowledge, there have been no meetings with our block club or our president regarding any changes to the R2 zoning code. Currently, developers that are in our neighborhoods are not improving our neighborhoods, but are neglecting the neighbors. They treat us like trash. I'm just going to put it right out there. The developers currently have an F rating on Google, yet they were approved by City Council. So who are they bringing in to develop these spots as well? And there's very little consideration for human life. We're just a number. As a Detroit citizen, I would not want a 4-story apartment blocking my sunlight and view. We need monitored parking in our neighborhoods. Unregulated parking would not be a great option, because who would want to walk with an armful of groceries 30 feet because there's some apartment complex and all of a sudden all these people are parking in your spot? Green space is very important to a healthy mental state, and I oppose the change to current R2 zoning codes. I think there needs to be a lot more community engagement.
Thank you so much.
The next speaker is Joe G. They should be allowed to speak now.
Welcome, Joe G.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Cool. Yeah, I don't really have a long prepared comment or anything. I just wanted to say I'm in favor of the changes. I live in D5 on Kirby, on a street with apartment buildings. I live in a duplex. There's single family homes on my street. It's nice. There's old people, students, people my age, I feel like I live in a neighborhood with too much parking. If I'm honest, there's a lot of surface lots. There's a parking garage at the end of my street. There's 2 lots that sit completely empty, like 90% of the time. I just think that mandating the parking just seems kind of silly when I think it's more of a question of how the parking is used right now. And then I also just wanted to say, as someone who rides transit to work, it's kind of not fun walking around Detroit. I was hit by a car this summer in a crosswalk, walking across Warren. It's just a reality. Like it's rough and it's like scary. So yeah, I just wanted to say, I would like to fix the parking issue by increasing the money for transit instead of just providing more parking. Yeah, and I guess I'll yield my time.
Thank you so much.
The next speaker is Keegan Scannell, and they should be allowed to speak.
Hi, Keegan, are you there?
Hello, do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Cool. Hi, my name is Keegan. I would like to voice my opposition to the proposed changes. I believe that they're overly broad and far-reaching. And while I do see a lot of promise in the proposal, I think it's far too blanket. It's too overreaching. And I also believe that many residents are unaware of the discussion we're having today, and they would be significantly impacted by what's going on right now. It's a big change we're talking about, and I'm really happy to see this level of community involvement. And I urge the council to reconsider and ensure wider community awareness and input, because I think we can make positive changes like we're talking about here much more gracefully, and chip away at them. And also, I liked what other people were talking about with doing it by zone, because there's a very different parts of the city are different. But thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
The next speaker is Francis Gunno, and they should be allowed to speak.
Francis?
Hello?
Oh, yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, thanks. Hi, my name is Francis Gruno. I grew up in District 1, Rosedale Park, and have been a resident of District 6 and now a New Center. I'm with Detroiters for Parking Reform. We support the proposed amendments that allow more housing, a more diversity of housing, more affordable housing. But as parking reformers, we appreciate the reduction of parking requirements to the 0.75. In the history of Detroit, there's never been more parking than there is now. And yes, we need to manage it better. I've heard some of that feedback, and that is true. But forcing developers to provide extra parking, especially in denser areas where fewer spaces are needed, it undercuts our ability to be more walkable and sustainable. Requiring extra parking also means less money for housing. So the cost of constructing a single parking space can be thousands of dollars, and you can put that to more housing. We also appreciate CPC's desire to have a uniform approach to mandates, though I think there's still a strong case to be made for reductions along the corridors as it was originally proposed. That being said, Detroit is falling behind other cities on meaningful parking reform. Cities across the country are eliminating parking mandates altogether, over 100 and counting. And these are places diverse like Buffalo, Birmingham, and Minneapolis, as well as places closer to home like Toledo, Ann Arbor, Ecorse, and River Rouge. They've all taken this step and gotten rid of parking minimums because it's based on pseudoscience. It doesn't have any basis in reality, and it's been born over time as becoming parts of our codes, but really we need to rethink how we do parking altogether. I believe we can do better, but this is a step in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
The next speaker is Angela Jackson, and they should be allowed to speak.
Ms. Jackson, you can unmute. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Oh, hi. Hi, my name is Angela Jackson. I am a Detroit resident. I am asking the committee to vote no on the R2 citywide. That's the big word, citywide rezoning proposal. These changes will go through these changes should go through a planning process. It really should. So the community can have input. I am in District 7, and this is not a problem that we currently have. So I am asking them to target the communities with the problem they're having and assess them that way. Everyone should not have to be impacted with this proposal. It's too broad. In addition to, it should go as I'm echoing from community engagement. It should go district by district. And I don't even think many residents are even aware of this proposal and the impact it might have on them. Because if they did, I'm assuming they would either be down there or on the phone, online, somewhere they would want to voice their opinion. This is not going to go the way everyone think it is. And the older residents are going to really be impacted from this decision. We are looking at, it's going to make the city do this and this. One of the issues, it's not just affordable housing. Detroit has a lot of reasons why a lot of people are not there. One is the homeowners insurance, additional to the car insurance. It's a lot of things that impact people from moving into the city, and it's not just parking or rezoning. And I yield the rest of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson.
The next and last speaker is Renata Miller, and they should be allowed to speak now.
Ms. Miller, you can unmute.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Renata Miller. And once again, here we are to discuss zoning in the city of Detroit. This is why our residents have a lack of respect for some of these bodies, because they did not have the proper input. We must have community engagement. There should be a conversation where people are at the table, not at 4 o'clock today or 12 o'clock receiving an email. It's totally improper, and it's really a slap in the face. Most of the zoning should be, when we have these products, and while I do support small business and affordable housing, we must take each case one by one. So a uniform code is not effective. We have a uniform code right now that the city rarely abides by. There's projects put up that affects the residents. When you have 0.05% of our population paying 52% of our debt, our bills, our city services, you have to give them the respect and honor that they deserve. When you go into our historical neighborhoods and they're parking in front of their houses, on the side of their houses, and it's unfair that they're paying the bulk of the taxes. You cannot continue to disrespect our residents like that. This is how the city actually survived off the homeowners, especially in historical districts. But to make a uniform change the way that it's done so abruptly, this has been in effect since 2017 under I forgot what the other project was called, but there's another council coming, and it's coming in approximately 31 days. Why is there a rush? Why is there a rush? This should be put on the back burner. Allow the community development to come in with some engagement to give the proper content so we can move effectively and our residents do not feel like they're again being disrespected. We have to honor them. These are our taxpayers. We cannot continue to not hear their voices. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. And that concludes our public comment for this item. Now I'd like to direct our attention back to commissioners to see if they have any other comments or questions. And I just wanted to take another moment to appreciate all of the people who are here in the audience and online waiting well into the night to share your thoughts on this proposal. So I and my fellow commissioners really genuinely appreciate being able to hear your input and the impact this would have on your experience.
Yes.
I'll pass it on over to Commissioner Harrison.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to everyone who shared and participated in public comment, and wrote letters and provided lots of information. And thank you to Ms. Taverna and the individuals that are here presenting. I just have a few questions, and really would like to just get responses to some of the things that we heard. I think that there are of course, some really important things that are being discussed within this proposal. Some really important and progressive areas related to a lot of concerns that I think are important to Detroiters. One of the questions that I have is related to community outreach. Can you talk more about that community outreach process? Because several of the folks that we heard that shared concern talked about the fact that, didn't have a chance to participate or wasn't informed. Can you talk more about the community input process that you've participated in?
Absolutely, through the chair to Commissioner Harrison. So we went through a process, really looking at the concentration map that you saw of all of the R2 parcels that are vacant and available. I want to note that in District 5, outside of our meeting virtually, District 5 was the largest meeting that we had. Over 60 people showed up. We emailed block club presidents, neighborhood association presidents concerning that will be directly impacted, that had some of the leading vacancies in the neighborhoods. And so we're talking about neighborhoods like Northwest Goldberg, Jameson, Dexter, Linwood, etc. We went district by district as it pertains to districts 3, 4, 5, and 6. We even had a coffee hour in District 1 with Councilman Tate, and we let the individuals in District 1 know that they are primarily R1, so a lot of the proposal would not even apply to them. So in Districts 1, 2, and 7, a lot of these proposals do not even apply because they're heavily densed as R1. And so we thought it would be better to give district-wide, neighborhood-specific meetings to those residents that will be highly affected. So we had 2 District 4 meetings district-wide, but we have several individual neighborhood-specific meetings for neighborhoods that had highly dense vacant R2 land as well. So for instance, Jefferson Chalmers, we met with the Marlboro Block Club, we met with the NAC Block Club, which is Navajo, Algonquin, Kitchener. I can go down the list and talk about all of the presidents and leaders that we met with over the years. Over this time, a couple months, as well as the Historic District Alliance. We met with the historic neighborhoods in the city of Detroit. So the Boston Edisons, the Sherwood Forests, the Joseph Berry Subs, the Indian Villages. We went on a midday meeting with them virtually to talk to them about the proposals and let them know that primarily it would not affect them at all.
Appreciate.
Might I add, Commissioner?
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, yes, absolutely.
I just wanted to very briefly add, in part for folks who are listening in the public, this is our 4th time appearing before this body, our 2nd public hearing. At each and every one of those meetings, we do accept public comment. We also completed a citywide Doncast. The Doncast regularly gets 125 plus individuals participating. And then just one point for clarity in particular to 2 of the callers from Aviation Sub. I did want to note for your neighborhood in particular, you are in an R1 district, so the changes we're talking about to housing types do not affect your neighborhood. So we really appreciate you joining and sharing your views, but I wanted to make sure that we gave you clarity that your neighborhood is not affected by these changes.
Thank you so much. Anything else, Commissioner?
Yeah, I do. The other question and or concern that was raised that I appreciate hearing you all speak to. Got a couple notes here that I'm just trying to get caught up on. So community outreach, and I appreciate you letting us know that this is the 4th time here in front of the commission. In terms of providing folks with an opportunity, I'm sorry, I have it here in the corner of my. In terms of the number of changes, that was the second thing that people brought up, the number of changes that is in this proposal. And so can you speak to, why it was necessary to sort of coordinate along all of the elements that are included in this revision?
Absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner. It's a great question. So the changes that are within this one package are all designed to be complementary and necessary to work together. So for example, when we're making changes to the permissible types of housing in an R2 district, If we did that, but we didn't at the same time address dimensional requirements that in practice would prevent you from building that housing, we wouldn't have accomplished very much with that change. Very similarly, we heard some comments about parking in pro and con about changes to parking requirements. Were we to allow, make our changes to R2 districts, but in practice the parking requirements remained so high that it was not feasible to develop on those parcels, we wouldn't have accomplished very much. So there's really, I know it sounds like a lot when we go through 5 proposals, but they're really designed to be complementary, kind of mutually reinforcing, and as I alluded to in my presentation, really drawing out of the neighborhood framework plans that are done on a very localized level and involve a lot of ongoing engagement, as well as the Zone Detroit process, which involved, again, lots of conversations with the community. So we've really, I understand we can't always reach everyone, but we've really endeavored to try to hear those voices together.
I want to also add that these proposals are restorative in nature, and so we definitely presented to them and said, hey, in R2, we're seeing these apartments in your neighborhoods. We gave examples of when they were built. In R2, we see duplexes, triplexes, quads already in existence in your neighborhood. And what we're saying is that these proposals are restorative in nature. And a lot of these parcels are grandfathered in, but we want to allow people to build what already exists and maintain the character of the neighborhood. I also want to point out that we did contact, as a former District 5 manager, I created the District 5 Neighborhood Alliance, which is a conglomerate of all presidents of all alliances in District 5. We contacted the Lower North End Neighborhood Association's president. Her name is Lynette Roberson. And so Mr. Gersh, his president of his neighborhood association, was contacted on July 15th, and our meeting for District 5 was on July 30th.
Reminded about, what should come next upon, taking action on this item.
Absolutely. So should the commission recommend approval of this item, it would then go to City Council, where it would be referred to a committee. That committee would hold another public hearing, again, another opportunity for public comment, another collection of any letters of support or letters of opposition that folks wanted to submit. And then it would go to the body of the whole, who would again consider it in another public conversation where there's an opportunity for comment. And we're very happy to put our heads together following this meeting, follow up with folks individually who raised concerns about whether they had heard with sufficient notice. So that's what that process would look like on an ongoing basis.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes, Director Todd.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, I just want to indicate, while we agree generally with what has been presented with respect to public engagement, CPC staff definitely would have wanted more. We recognize once again the ambitious timeline that was put forward here and the desire to try to accommodate that through this process. And again, this was one of the compromises, but we definitely, as is typically our case, we certainly would have liked to see more. And I think, Commissioner Harrison, your question was less about the process, but more about will there be any additional engagement from the process. And certainly, again, if there's the ability to do that, Lord knows we've got so many other projects and things that are coming through commission and heading toward City Council as they look to wrap up this session, this term, and head into the election. There's just not really the bandwidth, I think. But again, we certainly would like to see more community engagement.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Director Todd. I'm sorry, Madam Chair, if I could, just one follow-up question to that.
Yeah.
Is there a scenario that you foresee where that could be done? Is there something that you could recommend in terms of what that could look like, just as a comparative or alternate scenario?
Through the chair, I think, again, as Deputy CO Tavener indicated, there is, Verna indicated, that, we do have the Doncast. Again, there are just so many meetings. Once again, we've become that meeting city, and I think, our residents, to a certain extent, get overwhelmed by it. On the other hand, of course, as you've heard, many of them do want to see more engagement. So I guess to the extent that, there's the opportunity, I think, again, as indicated, to maybe target a couple of the neighborhoods that were mentioned. I think maybe the example of the aviation sub, where maybe we could go in and have a meeting, or at least send information to clarify to them, for them, the extent of the impacts of this particular set of amendments on their community, and maybe clear up some misunderstandings that they may have. But again, I think it might be beneficial if we could have another, citywide Doncast or two, and maybe a couple of more targeted sessions as this, advances to the next step.
Thank you, Director Todd and Madam Chair. I just have one more. I guess this is just a statement, so I can bring sort of the things that sort of I'm reflecting on inside related to what we heard. There's these two things that I value. I value the progressive and very ambitious and innovative things that are being put in this proposal. I think there's a lot of importance to it. I'm a urban planning, so recognizing the opportunity to transform and rectify some challenges that have been caused by zoning, and thinking about equity in that respect, and what the future looks like. All those things are important to me. They're extremely valuable. But I also value the importance of having folks be heard and having a chance to weigh in. And so those two things are just sort of sitting with me. And so I appreciate what you shared about what the typical perspective or what you'd like to see, and some of the things that had to be bridged in terms of reflecting on this today. So thank you, Director Todd.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Commissioner Harrison. I'll pass it to Commissioner Lewis.
And I'll be quick. I'm going to pose a question, but I would like for staff to kind of look at it deeply and respond at whenever this comes before us again. If districts 1, 2, and 7 are generally unaffected, why is this a citywide proposal? Could we do an overlay in districts 3, 4, 5, and 6? Many of the people that spoke tonight are in the central business district, so they would not be impacted as much as those families living in the community. So by what was stated tonight, districts 1, 2, and 7 are not affected. Why are we going citywide? It would also, and again, in the interest of time and the time of you guys and that of my colleagues, I would like for staff to take a deep dive, and I am going to look for a response to that question. I would also like to say, I have developed land and built new housing in Detroit. You know that. During that time, there had to be a 45-foot frontage, I think it was, or maybe I chose to have a 45-foot frontage. Similar setbacks to that which existed at the time, did splits and combinations through the law department and engineering, and it was not the huge problem, and I was not a huge developer. I'm just one African-American woman who thought that she could and moved forward and did. So I'm hearing about all of these insurmountable problems associated with new construction in Detroit. On a 30-foot lot, you're going to have, 4 and 4 side setbacks or something to that extent, similar to what is here. Is about whether or not the developer understands what he or she needs to do. I think that it is a great idea to enable similar housing in those 3, 4, 5, 6 districts with similar setbacks, similar heights, that sort of thing, so that you take away the fears that residents have relative to having a 3-story apartment building next to my 2-story house. I guess what I'm saying is that, does this really need to go citywide? And are all the fears that we're talking about real? When I did it, it was in the early 2000s with BC. You couldn't handle your site plan review online. Now you can do site plan review and not even leave your office. So these fears that we're talking about, I don't understand based on my own experience when I had to come downtown in order to do site plan review. So I would like for staff to take a deep dive and bring back an answer to my questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Lewis. I'll pass it on over to Commissioner Russell.
Thank you, Chair. I just got a couple of questions, or I'm sorry, was there going to be a response to Commissioner Lewis?
I think she said that they can come back and talk in the future.
Okay. So I got some curious questions, right? And one, and I'm not sure, Director Todd, who this is for the staff. When we have our meetings, how are people notified?
So, through the chair, to Commissioner Russell, in this particular case, this being a text amendment to the zoning ordinance, we traditionally will send out a mailing to the collection of block clubs, community groups, business associations that we have that comprise roughly 1,300. And then there is our list of usual suspects, if you will, the individuals who have asked to be notified of any and all public hearings that we have, whether it's a text amendment or a map amendment. Then we also use the Gov Delivery in order to do a full email blast. I guess I'll yield to Ms. Murphy as to how many people receive that. And then, of course, there's the postings in the Detroit Legal News and then on the city's website.
Isn't there, there's a website you can just put your email in? Is it Zone Detroit, and you get notifications of the meetings as well? Or
Again, through the chair, Zone Detroit, of course, is that website is specific to our effort to refresh, rethink, to otherwise revise the zoning ordinance. There is, I believe, a link that we do provide in some mailings where individuals can go in and they can register with us, with CPC for those mailing lists that I spoke to.
And when you register for that, do you like get an agenda of what the meeting is going to be in the email?
They do not get the agenda. The agenda is posted online, but whenever there's a public hearing notice, they will be part of that list, the distribution list.
Is there any way that I remember before all this, we just mail it out, right? And so you all have thought, is there any other ways of announcing our meetings that you all are considering?
We are always, and of course, even more particularly after meetings such as these, but as alluded to, this is the experience, I think, for every agency, for every department or every body that engages in public hearings, public discussions where we are seeking, broad community participation. One method or another may not be successful or as successful as another, or it may not be as successful, I should say, at a given point in time, maybe based upon other competing activities, interests, etc. We note the individuals who spoke today having no knowledge of this, yet it has been going on for some time since the summer, and there are definitely other communities, as you have heard, who are quite knowledgeable because they have been following it and they've been interested in what we're doing here. And then, of course, you have those people who understand what the commission does and follow it regularly without any additional, activity or effort on our part. So we're always looking for ways whereby we can ensure greater participation and awareness of what the commission is doing. And certainly this has been an opportunity working more closely with the administration, where in fact there's been a little bit of that benefit to have greater exposure to the full network of the Department of Neighborhoods, and to be able to utilize their auspice, their resource, which we will do typically on when we do have a text amendment. But again, the scale and scope of this one warranted more than just a single Don cast. And again, the effort was made to target some of those R2 communities to actually go district by district and have meetings. In person as well as virtual, but most of them were indeed in person, and some of them, as alluded to, were with the council members or with their staff, certainly in coordination with them. In other instances, it was just the Department of Neighborhoods on their own.
So, just a curious question. If I wanted to be an informed citizen, like what would you, that I'd always keep up to date with things, what would you advise me to do?
Through the chair to Commissioner Russell, thank you so much for that question. It is the Department of Neighborhood stance that we constantly educate our residents on getting information. So you can go to DetroitMI.gov. You go to the bottom of the screen. It says sign up. When you click sign up, you can either put your phone number or your email address in. Once you do that, that's how you receive the information. Once you do that, it is a la carte. You can choose what you want to receive information about, and under Legislative Policy Division, it says updates from the City Planning Commission. And so you can receive via email or text message, and this is something we religiously do and teach our residents, that if you want to be informed about different things, a different council member, a different department, Legislative Policy Division, City Planning Commission, you can receive text messages or emails on the regular, and you won't get inundated with a bunch of information because you can choose what you want to get information about.
Okay, that's good information. So, say I'm old,
yes,
right?
sir,
and I don't have a smartphone, and I want to email. What would I do to stay informed?
What you would do to stay informed is connect to your nearest block club or neighborhood association. You would get with the president, vice president, secretary. We educate those individuals and leaders on how to stay up to date on what's going on in the city so that they have the ability to disseminate information to their older residents. We know that there's a digital divide, there's an age gap, there's an access situation, and so we try our best to go to hundreds of meetings. We have over 600 block clubs and neighborhood associations in the city of Detroit, and all 14 of our district managers and deputy managers attend those meetings and inform people of what's going on, including the R2 zoning proposals.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Someone mentioned a number, and I'm just curious. They said we're 1,100 short in housing units, and I didn't know if that meant homes needed or living units. And then I was curious, how many new units did the city build or were built in the city last year, if you knew that?
It's a great question, Commissioner. Thank you. We are talking about living units, so that could be a single-family home, that could be an apartment unit, whatever that family is looking for. We estimate that the city needs about 3,500 new units per year to keep up with demand, and we're building on average 1,600.
I'd say that number again?
Yep, 1,600.
Okay.
So the gap is at least 1,100, if not a little higher than that based on the numbers.
And, for a long time, I've been told that, out of all the major cities across the country, Detroit had the most single-family housing, and then, recently it's been, there was a housing shortage in Detroit. That's what I heard. And they said that it's not so much the individual housing, but the demand is for multi-tenant dwellings, right? And and I'm thinking, well, that's a good thing because it makes the city denser, and nobody's got to leave, but it's good to have more people, right? We can have a lot more people. So explain it where you get the need for the 3,500. And it's great to hear that the population grew by 7,000, but if you could.
Absolutely.
I'm
Yeah.
just curious.
So the population grew by 7,000 residents last year. There's an average of about 2 residents per living unit across the city. So we divide the 7,000 by 2 residents per unit and get to about 3,500 units. And I really want to emphasize, sometimes when we talk about new population and building new housing, folks hear it as being about new residents. But really, if we don't build enough housing, what happens is that there's so much demand for the existing homes in Detroit that it would drive up the prices of those homes, and we would see faster growth in rent. So while I'm talking about bringing more units online, this is fundamentally about keeping rents lower than they otherwise would be for longtime Detroiters.
I want to add a quick note as well, Commissioner Russell, is that we have a lot of people who are house insecure. They live with family, and we need to diversify the amount of housing that we offer to people. And so you have 2, 3, 4 people living in a household at a time that are looking for diverse types of housing. And so I think that what this proposal is really pointing towards, not just the population growth, but also the people that currently live in the city of Detroit that need housing across the city. In districts 1, 2, and 7, we have primary single-family homes. You're correct, sir. But what about offering diverse? If I want to live in District 1, but I need to live in a multifamily unit, I don't have that option, right? And so these proposals help expand options across our individual districts is what I would like to add.
Okay. And one more thing. So, when I'm thinking the dwellings, in my mind, I got a garage, right? I got a house in R2 and I got a garage, right? And I can go up a max of 2 stories, right? If it's in R2, I can go up a max of 2 stories or whatever that height is, right? It's not going to be taller than the house, right? But I always thought that, especially one use for that, even if it's single story and you make that a living facility, because for my parents have gone on now, but it was quite expensive finding a place to be cared for, and our homes weren't, you got to go up a couple of steps to get to the bathroom or to go down a couple of steps. If you could do something there on your property, is that something like that what you're intending in this bill?
Yes, sir, that is exactly what we are intending in this. Thank you very much.
Okay. And someone asked me to ask this. So do we know the count total of all the people that participated in your outreach?
Yep, we had over 300 people in the 14 community engagement meetings that we did.
So that is the in-person or the in-person and online?
That is in person and online, although to Director Todd's point, of the 14 meetings, let me pause for a moment to make sure I'm not misstating anything. Of the 14 meetings, at least 12 were in person. So there were 2 virtual that I'm aware of.
The 2 virtual were the Doncast on Monday. I can't remember the date. And the second virtual meeting, actually there were 3, I'm sorry. The 3 virtual meetings were Doncast and 2 historic neighborhood meetings. So again, as I stated before, we met with the Boston Edisons, the Sherwood Fords, the Joseph Berry Subs. We also met with Petoskey Otsego, Jameson, Dexter Linwood.
You had a meeting in District 1 with Councilman Tate.
Yes, in person. That was a coffee, his planned coffee hour. We attended that meeting.
And, and that brings up, because I know Councilman Tate does a lot of meetings. Did the other council people do, I'm assuming they do their meetings in their district, did they bring up this in their meetings? that not in the count that you all are talking about?
What I would say is that a number of council people attended the meetings that we hosted in person in their districts. I can't speak to whether they discussed it in other community engagement meetings that they do.
Okay. Thank you all so much. Sorry, Father.
Ladies and gentlemen, the defense rests. I apologize to the commissioners for interrupting and being out of order.
Okay. I'm sorry. We're going to have to move on. We're going to have to move on to the next thing.
Of which 500,000 of those
I'm so sorry. Yes, this isn't the time to speak.
were engaged on this plan.
I apologize. This isn't the public time.
Again, I apologize to the commission for the interruption.
Thank you for the apology. Director Todd, did you have an announcement?
Yes, Madam Chair, Commissioners, just wanted to follow up on the question that was raised earlier that I spoke to with regard to the outreach. That Gov delivery list that is compiled via the means that Deputy Director Roberson spoke to is now up to 6,884 recipients. So when we send out through Gov delivery for each of the public hearing notices or on any other occasion wherein we utilize it, that's the number that we're now reaching.
Thank you, Director Todd. Do any of my fellow commissioners have comments? Commissioner Daniels?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks again for your presentation. I'm a real estate broker, and you're right. There's a shortage of rentals. I get calls every day. And the rentals that are available, they're talking $1,200, $1,500 just to rent a house, single two-bedroom home. So there is a shortage. So we do need to address that. And also, speaking to the meetings, I live in the Mohican Region Residents Association over on the 8 Mile Gratiot area. And we send out notices. We go house to house with flyers. It's 1,160 houses in that community. Every house gets a flyer about a meeting. Not even 10% show up. Unless you're giving away something, they'll be there. But other than that, it's like they don't really care. So you can't really fault the administration for what they're doing in terms of doing the outreach, because we would go to the, each police precinct has a community relations officer, and all the black clubs and neighborhood organizations are registered there, unless they changed it. So I'm sure they're getting the word out, but people are just not showing an interest. They say, I don't care nothing about that. So they don't participate. So you can't really fault the administration for doing what they're doing in terms of trying to reach. So we're going to knock on everybody's door? Can't even get people out to vote. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Daniels. Back to you, Commissioner Russell.
So I was the chair. I was going to make a motion to accept staff's recommendation for this proposal. Am I out of turn?
Is he out of turn, Director Todd?
You get to determine whether he's out of turn or not, Madam Chair. But if I may, through you. So as we indicate in the report, and we do again apologize for the tardiness of getting the full report. Again, you did hear from us at your last meeting with the preliminary presentation and overview. In this circumstance, yes, you are hearing this for the second time. It is the fourth time in total that it is appearing before you, that is appearing on your agenda. If in fact the commission is satisfied, ready, and wants to act, staff did indicate a preliminary recommendation of approval, recognizing that this was still a public hearing. And that there may be questions that you raise or questions and concerns that come from community that you want addressed. If, in fact, there is nothing more, and of course, earlier Commissioner Lewis did raise a question that she wants to wants a response to. Certainly, we can provide a response, at least in part, if in fact not in whole, today, if you would like. But again, recognizing the ask of us, to do this rather ambitious undertaking. This is not following the normal course that we would have for the text amendment of this scale, this size. But as indicated, we have come to a point wherein through various discussions, including the engagement that we did have with public, to make compromises, to alter the original proposal as it was seen, and to develop the proposal that is before you today in the form of the draft ordinance. We are supportive of it and would recommend approval. Staff would also ask that you would empower us to address and make for any clarity of intent or corrections that may come up, that may arise as this goes through the approval as to form process, which would be the next step. Should you take action, we would request of Law Department to formally do the approval as to form of the ordinance. I will indicate that, again, because of the compressed time period here, we've actually been informally engaging them. We do that with a lot of large text amendments where we'll form a full working group of all of the agencies that are here represented today, including the BZA and others. And Law Department will participate, so we'll have the opportunity to get some of that input. And as we're kind of phrasing it this time around, we're getting some real-time sort of approval as to form input where Law Department is there. So all that to say, we will be leaning heavily on our colleagues at the Law Department to ensure the integrity of the ordinance going forward on this timeline to City Council. And so again, just to complete that, the original thought, that would be a additional recommendation that staff would make, that you would empower us to be able to do so in order that in order that the matter would not have to return before you in some capacity. If some deficiency or error were found, that you would authorize staff to act on your behalf to provide the necessary clarity of intent or qualification of any of the provisions.
That would be similar to what we typically do with like a PD, where the staff can handle any changes and revisions and sign off on it.
Through the chair, you're right. In that instance, where again those PD districts can require conditions that any of the conditions that may be specifically ascribed to a given proposal may bear that, but there's always the catch-all condition, which does exactly what you said, where staff is empowered to ensure the integrity of the particular proposal when it is submitted for, or actually prior to it being submitted for permits to Director Bell.
And in this case, that would be something like setting up some more public engagement.
Exactly. If the consistent, again, through the chair to Member Russell, and with respect to Commissioner Harrison's comment, if that's the desire of the commission, yes, that could be included as a additional recommendation.
Can I? Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Russell, and thank you, Director Todd, for taking us through that. I just wanted to say a couple, oh no.
And I'm sorry, Madam Chair, the only point I forgot to make, you would once again have to waive your requirements for same-day action should you desire to take action on this.
Okay. Thank you. An important point. I appreciate it. I did just want to add on my comments about the presentation and the community engagement that we've heard so far. I think that this echoes a little bit of what Commissioner Harrison was talking about, but I think that my core values are really excited about being creative about what the development in the city could look like. How can we ensure that the cities are what residents want it to be, which is more neighbors, walkable, safe. We hear this echoed time and time again with a lot of zoning proposals. And so that's the kind of Detroit that Detroiters want. And I am excited to think about how we can get there, and the way that you all have thought through some of these items to help us get there and make sure that we can have more development, fewer vacant lots, the ability for people to move around the city. And I am glad to hear that we're thinking about it. I did notice that I did a quick little count about the folks who gave public comment today, and about 1/3 were in opposition, which seems to be similar to when you have done community engagement. You said about 60 to 90% of people are in support. So I feel like that lines up with the comments that we've heard today, which tells me that the people who knew about this have their feelings, and I'm really glad that we could hear them, and that tells me that there's a lot of work to be done to ensure that all Detroiters are brought into this process, especially for these proposals that will affect all of the city of Detroit. I also want to just acknowledge and recognize that you are under considerable time pressure, and that was by design of when this was brought and when you want it to be completed. So I understand that you have the pressure to move this quickly, but I don't want to lose the community engagement process, as we've talked about a lot this evening. And I know that you have done a lot of reach out, and maybe sometimes people don't heed the call and show up at times. And I also acknowledge that maybe 300 people giving comments is not that much in the big city of Detroit. And so I do feel a little nervous about that. But how I would like to offer to my fellow commissioners an idea, which is moving forward part of the proposals that we didn't hear as much opposition on today. If that is something that is possible, my suggestion would be to move the proposals 2, 3, and 4. That's the one about accessory dwelling units in R2 through R6, allowing the fully residential apartments on commercial corridors, and the dimension changes to make it easier to rebuild homes on vacant lots. I think we didn't hear much opposition to that, but they are part and parcel of some of the proposed changes, and I would love to hear if anyone has thoughts about that idea.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Lewis?
I mean, I think that is a fantastic idea in terms of moving forward based on those areas that there was no opposition. I would ask staff, especially relative to those ideas in terms of building on the vacant lots, building on the vacant lots within the communities. At that point, though, Madam Chair, I would like to know if we can get an answer from the land bank in terms of those communities that exist where they are not allowed to build on the lots. And right now, I think the land bank, when they were here, they said 11. Now I'm hearing it's 20. So there's a little discrepancy there. And I'd like to know how many lots that they have in their inventory would be sold in those areas. So I asked this question at the first meeting, and I have not received a definitive answer to my questions. I do realize that sometimes I let them go, but in this instance, the community that have purchased those lots next door, if we're going to give these opportunities to developers in the neighborhoods, the persons who bought those lots should have the right to sell them for a market price. If that market price is $250,000, they should be able to sell that lot for that price or build on it. So I really love what you're saying, but and if the rest of my colleagues would like to go with that vote, I realize I'm just one vote. I would just like some answers to my questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Lewis. Do y'all have comments on that?
Madam Chair, I was simply going to indicate, and I do apologize, we did have Director Daniels on. She was a virtual participant, and she joined us for, I guess, as long as she could. Unfortunately, the way the discussion went, we were unable to get back to her. I will yield to the administration if they think that's a response we could get rather quickly.
Certainly, but Commissioner Lewis, could I understand the specific question that you'd like answered?
Okay, there is some number of vacant lots that the Detroit Land Bank sold as the lot next door. There's some number. There is some number of vacant lots that the Detroit Land Bank currently owns and intends to sell, possibly as a lot next door. What I would like to ensure for those 30-something thousand residents who bought the lot next door, if they should choose to become involved in developing that lot next door based on the ordinance that the administration would like for city council to pass, that they would be included in the opportunity, including those in areas that are restricted. Okay?
Ma'am, would you like a response?
I would like a response from the land bank, yes. I would like a response from the entity that controls the land.
Yep. So, ma'am, what the land bank communicated last time and what they've shared with us in writing to communicate to you is that 29,980 of the 30,000 side lots, at least, are able to be built upon or sold without any additional approval. They know with certainty that under 20 of the side lots that have been sold have the deed restriction that you've been asking about. Miss Daniels thought off the top of her head that the precise number was 11, but what I've been told with absolute certainty is that the number is under 20. I would be very surprised if the land bank had much side lot inventory left in Brush Park, but we are more than happy to give Miss Daniels a call and try to find out if she can get the exact number to you.
Well, you see, the answer to my question is yes or no. Will every lot that the land bank sold as a side lot be buildable? That's yes or no.
Well, the answer is yes, ma'am, because if a person who purchases that lot would like to build it or sell it, all that they need to do is ask the land bank to waive that provision of the deed. It is expressly waivable by the land bank under the terms of that purchase.
So then the answer is possibly, if the land bank says okay. What I ask at the first meeting is that the land bank waive that restriction. It could be that simple. Waive the restriction so that restriction does not appear on lots that they sell in the future. Take the restriction off so that individuals buying the lot next door will have the same right to build. That's all I'm asking. That's all I'm asking. That all of the individuals that buy the lot next door have the same right to build. That's all I'm asking.
Okay. Director Bell is going to try to reach Ms. Daniels.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Commissioner Lewis. I'll pass it to Commissioner Daniels.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have another question relative to the lots. A lot of lots are owned by the building and safety, right? Planning and development. Do they have the same deed restrictions about being able to build on them if an owner chooses to do so?
They do not. The lots that they own are commercial lots, so they're non-residential properties. And I do want to clarify, especially because we have quite a bit of attendance here at this public meeting, the reason that the land bank includes that provision in the deeds to certain side lots in areas like Brush Park is that they had several instances where an individual purchased a side lot for $100 and turned around and immediately sold it to a developer for sometimes tens of thousands of dollars. And they felt that that was a situation that required additional review. So the purpose of that provision and the request to the land bank to waive that provision is simply to make sure that if a side lot is purchased, that it's kind of purchased with a public purpose in mind, I would say.
That was going to be my next question. But just piggybacking on what my colleague just said about the lots, if a person buys a side lot from the land bank, they should be able to do what they want to do with it. If it means putting up another single-family home or duplex, if it's allowed, or selling it. I think that should be allowed without any question.
Okay, well, we're happy to try to get Ms. Daniels on the phone to clarify that. I do just want to reiterate, for 29,980 of the 30,000 lots, that is the case. There's fewer than 20 lots citywide that have this provision, but we're more than happy to get her on the phone and see if she's willing to discuss those 20 lots.
Good evening. Through the chair, Dave Bell. We did get a response from Ms. Daniels, and she says that the land bank will remove the restriction. Oh, she's on. Okay.
Could we have her raise her hand? We're looking for her.
She's in. No, she's in.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Okay.
if you'd like to recognize her, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you so much. Ms. Daniels, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us at this late hour. And I would like to pass on the question of, is it possible to remove the waiver? Let me see if I could say this right. To remove the waiver that is necessary on about 20 side lots that they would need to build on it.
So I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with what's going on. I'm just joining, so I don't have the backstory to know exactly what you're talking about.
No problem. The slight backstory is that there is a concern from the commission that there are a couple side lots. We've heard that the number is under 20, in which they would have to file a waiver with the land bank to be able to develop or sell on their side lot. And so the question is it possible to remove that waiver restriction on these deeds for those 20 or fewer lots and for future properties that might have that restriction that the land bank is setting?
So there's a mechanism where the purchaser can ask to have that restriction removed. Is the question, can we ask the board to remove the restriction in the deed altogether? Is that the question?
Correct. It's basically, can we omit that step for those lots that the restriction is there for?
So we can present that absolutely to the board to consider and ask that they do that. That provision was placed in the deed in consultation with our partners at PDD and HRD. So, but we can absolutely request that provision be removed from those deeds.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Lewis, do you have a question?
Thank you, Ms. Daniels. And I will explain why this is important to me, and I will do it very quickly. My feeling is that we, the government, should not be controlling the land that we sell once it is sold. And the reasoning for the restriction is basically to stop the individual, the family, whomever that bought that side lot from profiting from the sale or the use or construction on that side lot. And I don't think that we as public servants should be involved in that. Once the Detroit Land Bank sells that land, that buyer should be able to do whatever is legal on that land just as any other buy-sell transaction in the marketplace. And that's why it's so important to me that you remove that restriction. Thank you, Ms. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Lewis. Ms. Daniels, did you want to say anything about that?
No, I do understand Commissioner Lewis's concern. I am not able to modify the policy on my own, but again, I can absolutely raise that concern with our board and ask that they take the requested action.
Thank you so much, and thank you for hearing our concerns and seeing what you can do about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yes. Commissioner Daniels.
I have one quick question, Ms. Daniels. How often does the Land Bank Board meet?
The board meets on a monthly basis 9 times a year. So with the exception of December, February, and July. They meet every month.
Is it conducted similarly to this meeting where there's public input or questions that
Absolutely.
can be
So
asked?
through the chair, absolutely. We actually have 2 committee meetings prior to the actual board meeting. Like typically it's the week before the board meeting. There is a finance and audit committee meeting, and then there is a community engagement committee meeting where public comment is absolutely a part of the agenda. And then there is the actual board meeting, which also allows for public comment.
Okay, and the meetings are done virtually as well?
You can attend virtually or in person, and the dates for those meetings are on the calendar on our website.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. It is an important concern of mine as well. If a person buys a side lot and they decide, hey, I want to build a house here, or I want to sell it, somebody want to buy it, they should be allowed to do it. I mean, that's why they purchased it.
I do understand the concern, absolutely, and I will articulate that at our next board meeting.
Well, thank you very much for joining us at this late hour. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you, Commissioner Daniels. And I have one more question for you, Ms. Daniels. If you know if there are any side lot restrictions specifically for District 6 and Corktown.
So I do not know. I do not know of any specific restrictions for District 6. I do believe that part of Corktown is included in the inclusive housing opportunity area that I spoke about when I was there on the 18th, which is one of the areas where side lot sales and neighborhood lot sales, vacant lot sales are restricted because they are trying to promote affordable housing development in those areas.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Daniels. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Do any more of my fellow commissioners have an idea on the motion or any steps forward that we have? Commissioner Harrison?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Could you repeat the motion that you or your proposal that you suggested?
Yes, absolutely. My proposal is to move forward for a motion. Only a certain part of the proposals that would be in our packet, number 2, 3, and 4. Number 2 is allowing accessory dwelling units in R2 through R6. Number 3 is allowing fully residential apartments on commercial corridors. And number 4 is making it easier to rebuild homes on vacant lots. And then the flip side of this proposal is asking for more community development and refinement on proposal 1 about allowing more types of housing in R2, including triplexes, quads, and townhomes. And proposal number 5, offering flexibility on the size of parking lots. Yes, Commissioner Russell.
So, I look at these 5 proposals as complementary to one another, you know, and there were, at least my understanding, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but even for number 1, R2, triplexes, quads, those were conditional uses that were in R2. They weren't by right, right? And what that number 1 was trying to do, and what I see a lot of this is trying to do, is allowing Detroiters to build back the Detroit that existed. You know, so you can look at, trying to think of a good street, that it's gone, you know, it's torn out. And where those lot lines are, you couldn't rebuild what was there before. And I think number 1 is trying to rectify that, right? And I think in order to do that, that is where the parking reductions come in, you know? So I would not want to separate this proposal because I think, and I don't know, I'm speaking for you all, but that they go together and they're complementary. I don't know because this is the summary of a text ordinance.
Right.
So I don't know if you can break it up like that, or how much work that would be. So I guess that's the question.
Madam Chair, through you to Commissioner Russell and the entire commission, that last point certainly is the issue. Yes, it can be done. You might question the utility of, as you said, breaking any of them up. Certainly, there has been a groundswell here. There's been some momentum built. And if something could advance versus nothing, then I think there's some benefit there. But yes, technically speaking, we would have to sit down and rewrite the ordinance and do it relatively quickly in order to get it to law department to start that approval as to form process and then get a recommendation. We were looking to, if you took action today, provide city council with a report and recommendation tomorrow, so that this could hit the table on Monday and that process could begin. Again, within that timeline, there is still time to do, as I said before, go through that approval as to form process with the law department. But it would definitely take work to alter the ordinance to comport with 3 of the 5 provisions or divisions.
Thank you very much, Director Todd. And Commissioner Russell, I think you've hit the nail on the head. We're looking at this as complementary proposals, each one of which is necessary to get to the 1,100 units that we need per year. So the administration would have very grave concerns about breaking the proposal into different pieces. Frankly, just that we would hate to, we've spent a lot of time talking to Detroiters and being in their communities, telling them that we're trying to address a housing crisis and that we need to get to 1,100 more units per year. And I would feel disingenuous passing a proposal that doesn't make a significant move towards that number. And if we were to remove pieces of it, including very important pieces of it, I don't feel that we would move towards that number. I very much respect, I just want to emphasize, we absolutely agree with Commissioner Harris and Commissioner Udabe, the points around engaging the community. I mean, each one of these meetings that we held in person was multiple hours face-to-face with individuals. You know, really, as long as folks wanted to talk, we were in the room with them. So I hear you, I very much agree with you. We tried our hardest to reach out to folks, to have mass mailings, to do many different points of engagement with this commission that were mass mailed, the July 31st public hearing.
For 6 months, haven't heard a thing from you guys. Like, this is such a lie.
Excuse me, please.
Lying.
I'm sorry.
And we're very happy to engage with that gentleman, Mr. Cheeks. It is.
That's Mr. Gersh.
Sorry, I apologize. Mr. Gersh and Mr. Cheeks is what I would intended to refer to.
Mr.
You know, we have about 2/3 of the folks in support, and we're trying. We've tried as hard as we can to engage with folks throughout this process. That's where I would leave it.
So I want to add that this gentleman, Mr. Gersh, again, his president, Lynette Roberson of the Lower North End Neighborhood Association, was emailed on July 15th. We had a meeting in District 5 at Butzel Family Center on July 30th. So his neighborhood association president, who he admitted is he's the secretary of, she was emailed, she was notified, and if he did not show up, that is on his own accord. I will also add to your point, Commissioner Russell, through the chair, that if a person right now, even it's not just vacant land, if a person right now has a house, they live in a duplex, and it burns down, they have insurance and they can rebuild it if they wanted to. They could not without going through a process. Right now, according to what the proposal said. I mean, according to what it currently is. And so if somebody had a house fire right now, they could not even rebuild it to its current status as a duplex or a triplex because it currently sits on R2 and we still have these parameters in place. And to your point, Commissioner Daniels, through the chair, it's an average between 12 to 20,000 people who are registered per district on Gov Delivery. When we send out things for the Doncast, that's about 140,000 people that are receiving the information about the meeting that we have every Monday. Again, that is about 20% of the population of the city of Detroit. And to your point, Mr. Daniels, we try to reach everybody, but sometimes people are not participatory in civic engagement. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your responses, and I don't want to minimize the community engagement that you have done. I think that's really wonderful, and I appreciate you being able to speak to that. I think that's really wonderful, and I also hear your purpose or point about having all of these proposals be passed at once, and I think that what I'm curious about is that you're saying that if a home burnt down, they wouldn't be able to rebuild it because of how the zoning is right now. And maybe it makes me curious about why the zoning was changed before. Do you have any idea on like the rationale for that change in the past?
I do, absolutely. Sorry, I'm smiling because I appreciate the question. It's one of my favorite topics to talk about. So most of Detroit's housing was built before, in the early 1900s, as you know. Most of it dates to about before 1940. Okay. So most of the housing in the city was built before our current zoning code was adopted. Then, there were concerns during the Industrial Revolution around things like industrial pollution and industrial uses being near residential. That's kind of the genesis of zoning as a whole. Detroit's current zoning and the dimensional requirements that we're acting to change were enacted in 1968 as part of urban renewal. So Detroit passed a federally recommended zoning code that included, in our view, relatively suburban styles of development, so very large lot sizes, large setbacks. Again, that was kind of part of the broader urban renewal effort, and we don't feel that that is fitting with the historical pattern of development here in the city. And I would let the rest of urban renewal kind of speak for itself in terms of how well it served the city.
Yeah. Thank you so much for going through that and for explaining how we got here. I put my proposal on the table, but if my fellow commissioners would like to make an actual motion, I would be very willing to hear that.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes.
I just checked, and the next Land Bank Board meeting is, I just looked at it, I think the 21st of October. And if I heard my colleague Daniels, the matter of the side lot is as important to him, if I'm not mistaken. I would like to suggest, if I could, Madam Chair, that we postpone the vote until the first meeting in November. By that time, the Land Bank would have given some indication, or if the Land Bank could give that indication prior to, I personally would like, I asked the question the first day this appeared before us. I want an answer to my question, whether it's yes, no, yes or no, whether or not the residents, 29,000 plus whatever lots they're holding. You talk about the lots that they sold. I'm not only thinking about the lots sold, I'm thinking about the lots to be sold in the future. It's a revolving door. Foreclosed property goes in, foreclosed property comes out into the millennium. I want all of those people buying those foreclosed lots today, yesterday, and tomorrow to have the same opportunity, if this passes, as developers like I was. Didn't know, you follow people around, you understand what you need to do, and then you go out and do it. But that they should have the same opportunity. Thank you, Madam Chair, and that's a very selfish proposal. I understand that, but I would like to see that happen.
Thank you, Commissioner Lewis. I'll pass it over to Director Todd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just very quickly, a rather significant issue. It is now 10:15, and this meeting really needs to end about 10:30 in 15 minutes. So in order, again, for everyone to be able to get out and get back over to the garage before it closes, in order that you don't lose your access to your vehicle. So we can obviously stretch that just a little bit, but want commissioners to be clear about that, certainly relative to this item, and given the way the conversation is going, would assume, unfortunately, that means we're probably carrying over the last two items to your next meeting. But again, just that rather significant bit of housekeeping.
Very important. Thank you so much for bringing that up. Commissioner Russell.
Okay, so I'm going to make a proposal, and I want to be considerate of all the commissions, because I think everyone has brought up some excellent points. So before I make the what is it? The motion. If we want Commissioner Lewis's concern about the restriction on the side lots from the land bank, we approve something, goes through its paces, it goes to city council, and because it's not going to get to city council till after that board meeting, right? And so if we approved it today, so if we put that in there and as a body include the things that you were saying, Director Todd, and the things that Commissioner Lewis is saying, that be read to and communicated it to the council subcommittee and to the council, where they're going to have these hearings again, so that issue is brought to the forefront, and say that we strongly suggest that I forget the name of the land bank, remove that prior to city council voting on it.
Again, certainly through the chair, Commissioner Russell, you could formulate your resolution, your recommendations in that way. Again, we're making it more complicated, but wouldn't be the first time. Again, in order to attempt to move something along. So, I mean, the answer is certainly yes. If you wanted to be able to still get that answer and then convey it on to the city council, or ensure that it is conveyed to the city council through us, the administration, as part and parcel of this package of things, yes, that could be done. Or again, if you wanted it to go forward, but still have, as Commissioner Lewis has indicated, have it come back to the commission specifically, that timeline would still work with the anticipated timeline of this going to council.
Okay, you kind of lost me a little bit, but
I'm sorry. Answer is yes, in different ways.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that we would need to waive same-day action first before this official motion.
Who appoints the members of the land? I guess you don't know. What's the mayor? I mean, what's the city's position on the request that my colleague made relative to the side lots having deed restrictions?
I would say I think Commissioner Russell makes a very good suggestion. So we are certainly happy to advocate before the Detroit Land Bank Authority Board that provision be removed. We are also very happy to commit to this body that will come back to you with an answer, that we will communicate exactly what the request was and what the answer was to City Council. So all of those items are certainly things I'm willing to commit to.
Okay, thank you. With that being said, I'd like to waive same day action for this item.
Support.
All in favor of waiving same-day action, please show that with a sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed with a sign of nay.
Nay, and at the appropriate time, I'd like to make a comment.
Absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner Lewis. The majority has passed waiving same-day action. Is now a good time for Commissioner Lewis's comment, in your opinion?
To go for a discussion, right? Does it? Oh, no, we're in the vote. I'm sorry.
You just, yes.
Yes.
Through the chair, yes, you just took the vote. So, Madam Chair, if you wanted to hear brief comment before the next motion, or if you wanted to have the next motion and then have commentary after that. But again, we're running out of time.
Yes, heard. Thank you so much. Let us have the next motion if one of my commissioners is ready to give it.
I'd like to make a motion to accept staff's recommendation on the text amendment with and to include the comments that Director Todd had from the concerns for the City Planning Commission staff had concerns, and I would like them as to be able to resolve any staff would be able to resolve any issues. I would also like to include that we communicate to City Council that the Land Bank, the City Planning Commission wants to remove the deed restrictions from
Side lots.
the side lots. Thank you.
Support.
Thank you. I'd like to do a roll call. Oh, sorry. Do we have any comments on this motion before I bring it to a vote?
Call the question, please.
Question, Commissioner Daniels.
No, I said call the question.
Calling the question.
That's the vote.
What?
Call the vote.
Call the vote, please. With a roll call vote.
Certainly, Madam Chair, Commissioners.
Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Daniels,
I support.
Commissioner Esparza,
Support.
Commissioner Harrison,
Support with comment when when appropriate.
Commissioner Lewis,
Nay, with comment when appropriate.
Commissioner Russell,
Support.
and Commissioner Udabi.
Support.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, the motion passes 5-1.
Thank you so much, Director Todd. And now this is the time for comments. Commissioner Harrison?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, I appreciate the effort that has been put into this text amendment and what was brought forward and the details that were shared in relation to engagement. But it's obvious from the comments that there's additional engagement needed. So I appreciate Director Todd and what you've shared in terms of helping to instruct that and provide some guidance on that as this moves to council with some of the comments that were raised. And so I hope that is something that can continue to get consideration as this just continues to evolve. And so thank you for that.
Thank you. And Commissioner Lewis?
Just as with the earlier vote, for us to vote to move it forward without having first heard from the land bank, it's going to move forward. So the land bank does not have to do anything at this point. Any leverage that we had to move forward on any ability to ensure that those individuals who purchased those lots with the restrictions would have the same opportunity as others is gone. Once we vote, the land bank, we have no leverage for the land bank to do anything. And I do realize that the land bank's position probably had nothing to do directly with this ordinance. I realize that you realize that. But I wanted to attempt to use that so that there would be, and this word is considered a bad word in today's society, equity for those residents who may want to build on a lot, not for the 25,000 that you talk about, but for all of them, those who purchased yesterday, today, and tomorrow, because they each deserve that similar opportunity as the young man stepped forward and talked about of himself as a small developer. That's how small developers get started. First, they have to own the land. And if they can get that lot for $100, they have quite a bit of equity to build on it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Lewis. I'll pass it for quick comments to Commissioner Russell and then Commissioner Esparza.
Commissioner Lewis makes a very good point, and but we're not. It's not done, and I think that her comment should be echoed in a letter from this to City Council, because it's not a done deal until City Council votes on it, and so there is time to do that, and that's why I asked the question whether that board meeting was going to happen before it gets to City Council. So I would, and I don't know about the rest of the commissioners, if we penned a letter to City Council stating what Commissioner Lewis is saying about the equity, and she makes a very good point, I would be willing to sign it, and we'd send it on up, because I don't think it's too late to hold the land bank accountable. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Esparza.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to let everyone know that I totally agree with Commissioner Lewis and her point regarding the deed restrictions that make a lot of sense to me to be removed. And I ask the leadership that's here by from the administration. We have the COO, we have the deputy COO, we have the director of the building department, we have the deputy of Department of Neighborhoods, we have the director of the Department of Housing and Rehabilitation, we have a leader from the planning department. I would hope that I can have the confidence that they will communicate this to the Land Bank Authority, the director, and the board, and provide the serious action that I believe needs to take place. So this commission has been supportive of this initiative, and tonight it moves forward. And so that is my request as a commissioner. So I look forward to the follow-up and the success with that, because I am in full agreement with Commissioner Lewis. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Esparza. And with that, I do believe that if you don't mind to just reiterate the next steps on this, and then we can close out this item. Director Todd.
Certainly. Very quickly, Madam Chair. As indicated, given your action this evening, we will be preparing a report and recommendation. We will also, that will go to City Council bearing bearing your decision and corresponding recommendations and concerns. And then we will also be submitting to the Law Department the ordinance to officially request approval as to form in order to advance this through to the public hearing and associated deliberations of City Council.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Director Todd. Thank you for coming back before us again and spending a lot of your evening here. So thank you all, and thank you again to all of our commenters who showed up as well. I would like to now... Oh, what?
I have one more item.
Oh, one more item from Commissioner Esparza. A comment from Commissioner Esparza.
Madam Chair, you've done an outstanding job, so thank you very much.
Thank you for your support. Thanks, y'all. I'm practicing. That's very sweet. I appreciate y'all. And with that, right before we end the meeting, I think it's only fair to just check in about public comment. And then...
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, Madam Chair, if you could at least go through and call the remaining items so that we can dispense with them, their next steps, and then we can get right to public comment and then end the meeting.
Okay, great. Thanks. I know that we're running against time. So I'd like to call to order unfinished business. This is the request of Matthew Walters on behalf of Goatyard Marine, LLC, doing business as Detroit Boatworks, to rezone the properties at 2 St. Jean 21, St. Jean 95, St. Jean, and 140 Terminal Street from a planned development and M4 intensive industrial zoning classification to a B4 general business zoning classification. I would like to adjourn this. Can you remind me how to say this, Director? Thank you.
Madam Chair, staff would recommend that you table this item until your next meeting.
I would love to table this item until the next meeting. All in favor? Oh, sorry.
Well,
Does anyone else support? Excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Excellent. We will table it to the next meeting. Then, yes.
If I could, I'd just like to make one motion that we table the rest of the agenda to the next meeting.
Do we have a support?
Support.
All in favor? Say aye. All opposed? Excellent. We will table the rest.
with the exception of public comment.
With the exception of public comment, which is very important, and we will do it right now. Are there any more in-person public commenters? I have a Willie Mays card, but I don't know if they're here. Are there any online hands that are raised, staff? Two? Does staff mind to support bringing them up? And you will have 2 beautiful minutes.
Madam Chair, the first speaker is Charlotte.
Excellent. Charlotte,
Charlotte,
please
should
go
we-
ahead whenever you're ready.
Charlotte, you should be able to speak.
Charlotte, can you unmute? Going once, going twice. Okay, Mr. Jeffries, let's go to the next caller, please.
Madam Chair, phone number ending in 124. You should be able to speak if you unmute your phone.
Phone number 124, please unmute, and you can have your 2-minute public comment.
Yes, may I be heard?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, I'd like to apologize for speaking in fight or flight earlier tonight. That's a trauma response to having had a big out-of-scale development secretly planned around me and the residents right there disrespected. I sent to the CPC, hopefully right email, an example of some emails that I sent to Mr. Joshua Roberson when he was District 5 manager, and he never responded. And he can correct me if I'm wrong. I also could send you emails that I sent to the people about Plan Detroit. Why did they create this master plan advisory group with only a small group of selected, unelected people, about 41 or 42 people, and the rest of the residents of Detroit are not allowed to attend those meetings? And then only by listening to a presentation to Detroit City Council that I learned, oh, they were having meetings with stakeholders. And I can forward you numerous emails who I've been writing to the people in the planning department about, hey, we'd like to be included in that. I even contacted Mary Sheffield's office, and her lackluster response from her staff person was, oh, that's just because you want to go. Well, I'm a Detroit resident. What's the problem with that? So this city is horrible at community engagement. I've suggested they can put notices up in public libraries so people who aren't on Zoom calls and stuff like that, and you really only 300 people, folks. And I'm sure, there are cheated votes in the elections, then that issue has not been debunked. So unfortunately, I think we live in a banana republic. And the other thing why this was so incredibly unfair is we don't have access to your board book materials. So how is that really respecting the residents? I really appreciate Renata Miller pointing out the lack of respect for residents in this city. And I just who controls the land bank? It's the mayor.
All
in
right.
case you
I just
didn't know.
want to say
The
we have to
economic
pause you right
development
here.
policy.
We have to pause you here, but I just want to say thank you for sticking around and being able to share that with us. I really appreciate it. And with that, I will close. Is there any more hands? Right?
Madam Chair, there are no other speakers.
Excellent. And with no other in-person public commenters, I'm going to close public comment. Yes. Support? I would like to adjourn this meeting to the call of the chair. No, just adjourning. Thank you all. Have a good night. Get home safely.
At 10:35.
At 10:35.